Hello, hello. Um, man, there's some good ones. Some good. Man, I didn't even. So I know there's this. People complain that I always have my theme music go on twice from an extra window. Um, that was because I had a double window open. I'd like fixed it on one. Ah. Um. So there's some good ones here. Let me see here of missing characters because I'll talk about some of these people and where they are. Come on, let me get my. Oh no! I didn't want to do that. Okay, let's talk about where some of these people are. My God, I'm just off today. What? Here we go. All right, so Tyrek Lannister, um, which is pretty famous one where everyone kind of is wondering where Tyrek is. The and this one comes up a bit more because Jaime thinks about him in A Feast for Crows. Had Tyrek just disappeared during the riot, I think people would be like, "Oh, he just died, and we don't have to worry about it." But Jaime thinks about him and thinks that maybe Varys kidnapped him, which means Varys probably isn't the one that kidnapped him. And so I always kind of say that maybe Littlefinger kidnapped him. It kind of makes sense for Littlefinger to kidnap him, but it also makes sense for Varys or anybody else. But Varys was outed. Um, Strong Belwas, he's still around. I guess he didn't go into battle, but he's sitting in the city. If there's a Quentin perspective, he's got to be in that. Um, the infamous rapper Young Griff, the Stone Snake for the win. Yeah, I mean Stone Snake. Of all of the ones that should come back, you'd think it would be him, just in the sense that Corrin is such a ridiculously enigmatic character that doesn't make any sense, and that really you need some sort of explanation on what the hell Corrin is about, and Stone Snake would be it. And the fact that they're like, oh, his chance of survival is none, and then he disappears. Like you feel like he's got to come back. Um, and Kyle Condon and Ronald Stout. This is an interesting one. These are kind of the Rob Forces left over in the Riverlands kind of characters. There's a lot of like Rob's people that just kind of disappear, and Kyle Condon and Ronald Stout are two of them that were like given command to like hold something or other in the Riverlands, and then it just never talked about again. And you could argue that they just became broken men with other northern men with other northerners like Brienne. This finds she talks about northerners being broken men, or you could argue that they'll join the Brotherhood without banners or something. There's a lot of like random Rob people that kind of disappear, and the Tyrashi Sellsword Company and things like that can kind of appear at the Riverlands, or so um one that I was recently reminded of that I'm ashamed that I missed when we did the Elaine um fan fiction chapter was Willis Woad, and that Willis Woad and his brother follow Catelyn to the Vale, and then they're never talked about again after Tyrion's trial. They're there watching Tyrion's trial, and then they just are never talked about again. And I was like, somebody wrote me like, "Dude, you should have had him like as one of the competition in the tourney." And I was like, "Damn it, you're kind of right about that." So we have to figure out. And Willis Wood, they're not mentioned by name, but like the lands of Woad, Jaime passes through, so it's not like he's completely forgotten. Um, Benjen, I mean, obviously Benjen has to be brought back later at some point. Best missing character is Daario Farrell, the Second Sword, yet to appear. I mean, he kind of appeared. Well, so there's a very small theory that Daario was replaced at some point by something like a Faceless Man or Euron or somebody, and that's because the Daario that visits Dany when the three leaders of the Stormed Crows visit Dany, Daario is among them, and he's completely silent, and and he leaves, and then he comes back, and he's kind of in ragged clothes now, and and won't shut the hell up. So there's a theory that this first Daario is actually the real Daario, and then he was replaced by some sort of imposter Daario. Quaithe is secretly Carolee de Brannon. Well, Quaithe appeared in Dance with Dragons. She's not that missing, but Carolee de Brannon is he's the scientist from Night Flyers he essentially dies when the Vulcan crashes into him at I don't know if it's high speeds, it's very high speeds, sub light, but like he gets annihilated when the Vulcan crashes into him. Shitmouth. I mean, Shitmouth was seen in A Feast for Crows. He's just we don't know if he hangs out at Harrenhal or if he goes with the rest of the Mountain's men eventually back to King's Landing. They're first told to drop off some people at Maidenpool, and then of course Wrath the Sweetling, we know, eventually goes to Braavos. So Shitmouth could be anywhere. He could be in Braavos. He could be in King's Landing. He could be still at Harrenhal with Bonifer Hasty. We don't know. So, did everybody's missing really, because we haven't had the Winds of Winter here. Bloodraven, maybe. I mean, the assumption is that Bloodraven's in the tree. Let's see here. Preston, what was the hardest subject you had in college? I had a really hard time in that I did really well in physics in high school, like straight A's, like was thought it was easy. And then I got to college and I got placed in like not the super high physics course, but like the one below it that was not, and I took it and it was just, I was annihilated. By it. I was so bad. And it was the lowest grades I've ever gotten in college was in that physics course. Will fanfic find Harangans? Is Trump a Githyanki? Harangans are the background vanquished villain in the Thousands World universe. Like the Thousands Worlds universe, for the most part, takes place after this war with the Harangans. But people always speak of the Harangans, this enemy that humanity fought for 1,000 years and defeated. And it's interesting because somebody asked George in an interview once, or at a fan thing where you got to ask questions, like, did you ever decide what the Harangans were like? And George kind of answered, yeah, in my mind, I kind of know what the Harangans were. But they never asked him, like, well, what were they like? Like, what were the Harangans like? We kind of know that they live underground now, and that they send out like psychic. They have a bunch of slave races that were like psychic, that they controlled. And the Githyanki were these like ones that would terrorize people's minds with their telepathy and give them bad ideas to cause humanity to go against itself. So they're pretty deceptive kind of beings. And in a sense, they you can kind of say, oh, they kind of remind me of the Children of the Forest, right? Sending out visions and living under the ground and stuff like that. So maybe he didn't maybe the question is they thought that he was going to elaborate, and then he didn't. But next, if anybody ever gets to ask George R. R. Martin a question again, like, I'd be like, just tell us what the Harangan minds were like. Why not at this point? Been rewatching House of the Dragon. One of my many problems with the show is it doesn't make it seem like the patriarchy is against Rhaenyra. It makes it feel like it's all Otto's doing. Like Otto is responsible for like a majority of the plot in the show. That's true. That's very true. I mean, in a very like abstract sense, you have Rhaenys like talking about the patriarchy, but it's a lot of like tell not show, right? Um, that she wasn't chosen because of this patriarchy, and that's it. But then you have to say like, well, where is the sexism? Like, where do we see the sexism? And besides Otto, like most of the male characters are pretty cool, right? Like before Kristen Cole gets dumped, he was totally cool with Rhaenyra. Um, Caswell totally cool with Rhaenyra. Uh, the Strongs don't seem to have any problem with Rhaenyra on like an actual like sex and gender basis. Like you don't hear any comments from people. You don't hear it from Daemon. You don't hear it from Viserys. Like where is the underlying sexism in the society? We don't see it. We just hear about Rhaenys bitching, and that's it. Like where is like there's a moment at the very beginning, like if you go like episode 2, where Viserys is like, go off and fill my cups and everything, but you can kind of chalk that up to Rhaenyra being young, right? And then after the time skip, it's kind of the sexism is kind of ruined in that Alicent's on the small council and everyone's listening to her. So it doesn't seem like there was any inherent sexism in the system at all. Everyone was fine. like so like I don't like no one's making any comments. No one's being like, "Oh, ha ha ha, she's just a girl." Like they had that opportunity at the hunt even. Um I suppose there was that scene where all of the women are like talking together, but I didn't really get the impression that people were against Rhaenyra because she was a woman. Like it never really came up. Kind of funny, but a good point, very good point. Um, Richard Lonmouth. Let's figure where is Richard Lonmouth. Oh, of course. Well, if a lot of people think Richard Lonmouth is Cloak, and that this is Richard Lonmouth was a squire for Rhaegar, and so some people are like, well, during the Ghost of High Heart's visions, she kind of talks about Lonmouth being having like skulls and kisses and stuff. So like the everybody's like, well, that just means that like Lemon Cloak is secretly Richard Lonmouth. Like, and it's not like the Ghost of High Heart is her stuff is very difficult to interpret or anything. So yeah, I mean, he's probably Lemon Cloak, so not really missing. Salladhor Saan. Yeah, Salladhor disappears after he drops off Davos, and so we don't know where he is. He could be back in Lyce. He could be anywhere. I mean, it's sort of like um, uh, more the Mirror Man, but the Mirror Man's been missing since, if you don't count fan fiction, he's been missing since Clash of Kings. Will Cleftjaw be in the fanfic? Cleftjaw is going to be huge in the fanfic. Okay, Cleftjaw. I don't know if you like Cleft like my whole so a lot of different theorists have done a lot of work on the North, like Bran Voss and Cantius and stuff. And they found a lot of different things, and I think if I were to pat myself on the back and say like what my contribution to the Northern story was talking about the Ironborn and connecting the Ironborn kind of pieces. But and so I fundamentally believe that there is a Ironborn plan involving Cleftjaw to get Theon back, and that he's the one that Cleftjaw and Theon Squire shit. See, I'm always streaming in the morning, so my brain isn't necessarily on, but like Wex. That it just makes sense that when you look at the map and you say, okay, if Wex survived at Winterfell, Torrhen Square is right there. Why would Wex follow Bran and Osha all the way north and then walk down to White Harbor? That makes no sense. The dude got set. The dude went to Torrhen Square and found Dagmar Cleftjaw, and that it's Dagmar that's really kind of orchestrating a lot of stuff to get Theon back, because Dagmar thinks of Theon as a son, and he's going to have a huge role in the North. And he's just so kind of forgotten in the background, but he's so essential. Like he's right there. He's right there if you look at the map on how close Torrhen Square is to Winterfell. R.I.P. Lance Reddick. Oh, did your actor friend who was on The Wire ever do a scene with him? Thoughts on Lance's character, Daniels, in The Wire? Lance Reddick is an incredible actor who was the captain on The Wire. Skinny black guy. I think he was in Fringe too. He died really young at the age of 60. And I don't. He never talked about that. My friend. So one of my main friends in high school is his acting name is James Rance, and I know him as PJ. But like I only had like 5 friends in high school. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I haven't talked to PJ in like a good 8 years. So 8 or 9 years. So but every once in a while I see PJ, like when he was in It's and stuff like that. So I don't think he ever talked about it, but the two of them are always doing kind of, other stuff. I'm trying to remember if he was in that New Orleans show or whatever. I'm sure he's met him at some point, but yeah, it's too bad, but LR Deem missing. That's true, maybe. It's one of those situations where, if he didn't come back, you just assume he was actually thrown overboard. But come on. Quaithe equals the cyborg Chloronimus, hence the mask. Chloronimus is one of the other background characters in A Thousand Worlds, though he does play. He's kind of this historical figure, but he then comes back as a character in The Glass Flower, and he's this historical figure who ended up downloading his mind into a cyborg. And the cyborg is kind of sick of being a cyborg and wants to be a living thing that can forget and die and stuff like that. And so there's a body swap story. It's a really, really deep, interesting story, Glass Flower. I'd say one of George's best. So if you ever get a chance to read it. What happened to Gilbert Farwind? Yeah, you're right. Gilbert Farwind should still be around. I guess he stayed on the Iron Isles. Maybe he's leading the revolution against Eric Ironmaker and his seal bride or whatever. Well, nothing is where are Craster's sons? Aren't they the others? Ilyn Payne did disappear, which is a little weird because he's like next to Jaime the whole time out to Riverrun, and then Jaime goes on to Bracken and Brackenlands, and there's no mention Ilyn in Jaime 1, A Dance with Dragons, which is a little weird, but I think he's probably going to be killed by Nymeria. It just makes sense that he's killed by Nymeria, or that he will be, because of the list. Is Mord at the Rock? Not at the Rock, but I think Mord is at the Eyrie. I'm trying to remember where Mord was last mentioned. If it was even mentioned in I forget I don't know if he's mentioned in the at the Gates of the Moon, but he should be at the Gates of the Moon. There's no reason for him not to be at the Gates of the Moon. Though he's a great character. It's too bad that he didn't make it into the fanfic chapter with Willis Woad. They gotta both make an appearance. But they closed down the Eyrie. He was at the Eyrie. They closed down the Eyrie. Everyone left. He's got to be at the Gates of the Moon. This response of YouTube texting Telegram is a scam, right? Of course. It doesn't. Does that sound like me? Does it sound like, I mean, that thing happens all the time. Like, oh, surprised no one has mentioned Taisha yet. Yeah, it's true, Taisha. Where do working women go? Have you seen the Winds of Winter cover from Airtak Altanos? He's done official A Song of Ice and Fire before. He's been very cheeky in his comments mentioning New Year's. So last night, Carmine and I did an entire podcast about this that'll be on Carmine's channel. He but for the most part, it's just fan fiction or fan art. It doesn't mean anything. And the main reason I think that is that it's too much in the style of the Dance with Dragons cover. And when new books come out in a series, they usually like to change the cover and then reprint all the previous ones so that people will be forced to buy the previous ones to make their books match. If you have a first edition of the Ice and Fire series, none of them match. And Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords is supposed to be in the same style, and they still don't really match. But a Game of Thrones came out with the kind of Grey Throne book. Then when A Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords came out, they did kind of pictures on the front. There's a Stannis and Melisandre on Clash of Kings, and then on A Storm of Swords, there's, I think it's Hoster Tully's funeral. And then they reprinted A Game of Thrones with, I forget who's on the front, if it's Ned or John or something riding a horse on the front. They reprinted that. And then when they did A Feast for Crows, they reprinted them all in A Feast for Crows style. And then they did the same for Dance. Hello. I know you're like, don't give away our podcast information.
That's literally the only reason I joined. Stop giving away the podcast. We just recorded it this morning. I wanted to get your opinion, and now you're giving the whole thing away.
Okay.
I'm still not here. I just joined for this one thing. I'm gonna BRB. I'll come back in like.
What are you doing? Where are you going?
Oh, I gotta do this thing. Every Sunday is laundry day. No, but don't tell them the cover shit.
Laundry day? Is laundry day some code for
washing my sheets and my pants and my? No, it's doing washing my t-shirts and my boxers and socks and stuff. No, it's laundry day.
Is that some sex move? Is that some move? What?
Don't give these assholes who watch you, who do their own channels, like you're fucking. Because we were having this conversation on the podcast. I'm gonna upload it on Patreon too. And you were telling me about all the covers and the history of all this crap. Like, that's a great video idea. You should totally do it. And I'm holding you to it because I'm gonna watch your video on it.
Okay.
All right, I'll be right back. This fucker. Right. This guy.
All right. Thanks for the videos. Just so you know, I refer to you guys as Archmaester Preston and Septon Carmine. So this gets back to one of the forgotten characters, or possible forgotten characters, is Septon Shale. So at Winterfell, which just the sea thing got me for a second, and there's a reason, and that is Septon Shale a Clash of Kings is the Septon at Winterfell, and when Bran gets his visions that of the people drowning, he tells Septon Shale, and Septon Shale's like, I don't think so. I'm a really strong swimmer. And then they end up throwing Septon Shale in the well. And the assumption is that, Septon Shale died. Of course, we don't really hear about anybody fishing out a body or anything like that. Not that, or maybe it happened off screen or whatever, but like, there is this idea or theory that Septon Shale actually swam down and it all connected with like the pools in Winterfell, and Septon Shale escaped because he was like this strong swimmer. And then the Septon at the wall is named Septon Celador. And there is a misprint in A Dance with Dragons at the wedding in A Dance with Dragons where Septon Shale, it says Septon Shale comes out to view the wedding instead of Septon Celador. So like apparently Septon Shale for a moment swam down the well, escaped, and came out at the wall, which is amazing. But yeah, it just made me all remind me of that missing character. Your theory on what happened to Benjen and his future role. That's, I haven't really put much thought into it, especially, once you take out the kind of cold hands kind of stuff, like where could he be and what was, how is he missing? I feel like if you find Benjen, you've just got to find Stone Snake at the same time, or something. I've been putting some thought into it because I don't know if if you guys haven't listened to the outline for the Samwell chapter is going to have some connections to North of the Wall, and it might be a chance to clue in where Benjen is and what his deal is. There is a situation where, the dragon glass that Jon finds is recently been buried. So one could argue that like it wasn't an ancient stash. People confuse this because in the show they find this ancient rune, and underneath it they find the stash of dragon glass. But in the book, it's wrapped in a cloak and it's been recently buried. So whoever buried it, whether it be just the children of the forest buried it or whatever, maybe Benjen buried it, or maybe cold hands, who knows? But it was a recent burial, so maybe Benjen buried that stuff. Yeah, it's hard to say, but yeah, Benjen's connection to everything. Yeah, I have to think. I haven't, of all the theories, I haven't really thought about that one too much. Oh, for the Dahan chapter, why does Jaqen? This is for the fanfic. Why does Jaqen care enough about earning a link to poison a maester? Is he keeping up appearances and it's part of his plan? Yeah, no, he's definitely keeping up appearances, but and things like that. But you also remember that Jaqen is his own character. He's very bad at very bad at being a faceless man in some ways. Like he's very good, but also like you're Jaqen H'ghar. You've been at the Citadel a bunch of months. Like you want people to start respecting you. I think you can come up with your own reason. Like, does he want to keep up appearances? Does he feel bad for killing Pate and want to somehow redeem Pate's reputation? Does he care about his own reputation and he doesn't want people. He wants people to respect him more. I mean, you can these are all ideas you can put in yourself, but but I just thought I needed a reason for everyone to be celebrating at the Quill and Tankard, and I thought that the Pate earning his first link is a great way to do that, and plus you get the little story that mirrors Tyrion poisoning Cersei back in Clash of Kings, yeah, where she's on the privy after he poisons her. Um, why does Tyrion have yellow, white, and black hair? Doesn't he have light pale kind of hair? Um, I think it's not too much to read into. I understand that like there's people that believe in the Tyrion Targaryen story where somehow he's Aerys's um, he's part Aerys, and granted it'd be kind of interesting, even though I don't like the Tyrion Targaryen's theory at all. But I don't like time travel either. But at the same time, time travel is definitely part of the story, so I can't deny it. But like, I do think it's somewhat interesting if Tyrion is a chimera, um, which is so there is a condition where people can be genetically two distinct things at once, and that's when in utero two fertilized eggs merge. And so calico cats are this, and there's human beings that have this too, called the chimera, where you know part of your body can literally have different DNA from another part of your body, and you can have two fathers, um, and so Tyrion does have different colored eyes. He could be a chimera, meaning he could technically have two fathers, which is pretty crazy. I mean, all of these things that like, um, but also though the other thing that wouldn't make sense about that is Tyrion's a dwarf, and so that means he would have to be a dwarf from both merged sex to make him a total a total dwarf, unless only the chimera is like part of his head and the rest of his body is a dwarf. It's some crazy stuff to think about, but I don't think it adds very much to the story to make him not Tywin's son. I think him being Tywin's son is like the most brilliant part, that like Tywin hates the fact that like this weak part of him is like is in a like Tyrion is the all the weakness that Tywin hates in himself, like manifested. And that's just like so much more brilliant than Tyrion being a Targaryen, in my opinion. Um, any tips for anyone writing fan fiction project for the first time? So my biggest piece of advice to anyone writing anything for the first time is to when you write, like literally stop and read it out loud and read it aloud, and if it sounds good, like then that's the way it goes. And the other thing to think about is there's something called like known subject. Usually sentences start with something that we've heard about before, and usually if you really want something to be clear, it links back to the previous sentence, often the object of the previous sentence. So like, don't write a paragraph like John went to the store, Frank flew a kite. Like those are completely unrelated things, right? So John went to the store was large is like something that flows better. And for now, specifically like to write in George R. R. Martin's style, uh, you just pick up a page of something that he's written, and you can actually like go through and like look how he structures things and the words he uses. Like pick a random page, and kind of see like the meter and cadence and stuff that he uses. He wouldn't say start every sentence with the same subject over and over again. It wouldn't be like John went to the store, John picked up a candy bar, like John ate it. Like he puts a prepositional phrase at the beginning and all sorts of stuff to try to mix things around. But I would have a page of George's writing up next to you while writing, and that's very, and as just a kind of a reminder of like what he writes like, and it really helps in the kind of like mimicking sense. And then there's a search of ice and fire. If you use a word, you can use a search of ice and fire to see if that's a word that George uses, because there's just some words that just George doesn't use. Do we know the burial rites for non-Stark First Men or were lore worshippers? Does anyone in A Song of Ice and Fire practice exposure like Zoroastrianism? That's a good question. I would say the burial rites that we know besides the Starks are the Barrowlands. So they end up like, having these big barrows. And so they do get buried out in the earth. So it's a little weird. The Starks are actually kind of unique in that their bodies are locked up with like an iron sword on top, as if to keep their souls inside, while the rest of the North seems to be burying themselves so that they would go into the earth and into the trees and into the weirwood net. So I think the Starks, for some reason, didn't want to go into the Stark Kings didn't want to go into the weirwood net, which is an interesting kind of idea. Now, as for anyone who practices exposure, the only one that I can think of is actually Walgrave talks about wanting to be eaten by his ravens when he dies, with this idea that perhaps like his knowledge or something we could passed on to the ravens or something. So and we know that people sacrificed in front of the weirwoods. So the idea that they're getting sucked into the weirwood net at that point, and Maester Luwin wanted to die in front of the weirwood, whether by accident or intentional, we don't know. But he died in front of the weirwood. The wildlings seem to burn their dead, and Jon thinks that's because they don't want them to rise as others. But I'm trying to think of anything else that's pretty good. It's Where's Weasel? Yeah, that's a good one. She just kind of disappeared. When joking the Night's Watch, if someone shows up in the Shadow Tower to join the Watch, do they have to go to Castle Black to swear the vows? I don't think so. I think you can probably do it from, like, if your assignment is the Shadow Tower or the East Watch, you'd think that you could get sworn in there. Like, why do several? Unless there's like main training. Do you go to Castle Black for like your initial training that Jon and Sam did, and then back? Because we don't hear about like all the people that came with Jaina Slint getting trained or anything like that. And do they have somebody to train them at the Shadow Tower and Eastwatch? You'd think they would, but I don't know if it's established. That's a good question, but I mean, it doesn't seem like when I think of like Mance Rayder, like not having a history at Castle Black and being Shadow Tower, like did he ever bother going to Castle Black to have initiation training and then back? If they just did it at those other towers, it seems like they could probably just do it at those other towers. Let's see. Will more Dunk and Egg stories come out, or do you think a TV show will continue the series for George? I think it will translate to TV well. That's a complicated question. So, if there is no Dunk and Egg story, even though George claims that he has to write all these other Dunk and Egg stories, and he has She-Wolves of Winterfell, the plot, pretty well outlined. I don't think George is ever going to bother like writing another story. If Dunk and Egg is picked up by HBO for a series, then I think maybe that would change. Then maybe I think, he'd get around to writing She-Wolves. But, that's like assuming that like each story is one season or whatever. Considering how fast they went with House of the Dragon, maybe they'd even go faster for Dunk and Egg, you know. And so then maybe I think he'd at least like try to write She Wolves of Winterfell and give them the outline of events or something. But yeah, interesting. I did receive a fan fiction version of She Wolves of Winterfell. It's very long, but I read it once, but it's to go through and have everybody edit and everything is take a long time, and so it's a little bit on the back burner. But so sorry to the author who like sent it to me, but like it's but a fan fiction version of She Wolves exists right now. It's just thank you, Scott. Let's see. Will Tyrion lose his tongue? Is that interesting? I don't think Tyrion's losing his tongue. Why would you take away the most interesting like aspect of Tyrion? He's got to talk, right? Especially like as time goes on, Tyrion becomes more and more like show Tyrion. No, he's got to be like he's got to still be able to talk. There'd be no point to the character if he lost his tongue. Plus, he's already lost his nose, so like he's already done that kind of like losing a body part sacrifice. I think there's more interesting ones. Like people wonder if like Cersei's going to lose her foot, you know, because she stepped on some broken glass during her walk of shame. Is it possible that it'll be infected and she would have to lose her foot? And then you'd have like one Lannister without a nose, one without a hand, one without a foot, you know, that kind of stuff. A lot of characters can lose body parts and stuff, but I don't think Tyrion's going to lose an additional body part, which that would just be like you're killing the goose that laid the golden egg at that point. Thoughts on Jon taking over the North, but not as the new Lord Stark, but as the new Night's King. He is revived and becomes a darker character. Originally when I was thinking about Jon's future, kind of before the show came out, I thought that it just, and everybody was making these arguments about Jon being Rhaegar's son and being the Lord of the, king of Westeros and everything, because there are a lot of king references to Jon in the story, like the Raven going Jon King, and stuff like that. There are a lot of king references, but I think plot-wise, when you actually examine the Jon story, it's much more in the direction of Jon becoming the king of the wildlings than Jon becoming the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Like, his whole story is about the wildlings, right? He arrives on the wall, he gets introduced to Ygritte and Mance. He then goes back to the wall and has to defend against the wildlings, and then feels all of the then in Dance with Dragons feels all the sympathy for the wildlings and wants to save them and bring them through the wall and stuff like that, and being killed, being stabbed for this, right? Like, his whole story is about the wildling issue and the wildling problem. And even the story of the Blue Rose is about the wildlings and the Starks being one. So plot-wise, it makes much more sense for him to be some sort of wildling leader. And in a sense, like, the end of the show does achieve that. Like, the end of the show, he does become the king of the wildlings. So in a way, like, in a really roundabout way, like, my prediction was correct. Or I guess everybody's prediction was correct, because he's like both the king of the secret real king of the Seven Kingdoms and then king of the wildlings at the end. But that's really where I saw the story going. And so my prediction was always that Jon would become the king of the wildlings, that the becoming Lord Stark or king of Westeros were fake outs, that his real place was with the wildlings. And that's the story of the Blue Rose. Now, as becoming the Night King, that's that is more I guess that's more interesting. People didn't it depends like how one perceives the Night King story. Like the Night King story, many people interpret it as, oh, this guy is married an other, and he's trying to sacrifice for the others, and he's totally evil in that sense. But I kind of read it and go, well, that doesn't really make sense. You can't have sex with another, right? That's you'd freeze. Okay, your penis would snap right off, like in the boys and stuff like that. Um, that the girl that the girl that he grabbed from the wall is Wildling girl. Like he steals her. Like he steal in a Wildling marriage ceremony, and it just says that she's pale and stuff like that. So it just makes much more sense that the Night King was took a Wildling bride and was trying to form some sort of alliance with a Wildling faction, and then Joramun was against that Wildling faction, and that was the kind of the war. So maybe in the sense that he could, that he is taking that he's kind of going with Val. Like Val is the girl that he glimpsed from across the top, and Joramun would be like the Weeper, like the other Wildling faction. Like I could see that all working. But I don't know if he necessarily needs to become a darker character in that sense. I mean, I think if he came back, he would be a darker character. But, I think people could perceive him that way. My favorite missing character is Nymeria. I find the whole wolf connection far more deeper than it assumed. Though the wolves make the Stark in a way. Nymeria does appear in the Mercy Savile chapter. She's still going around the Riverlands, so she's not too missing. Collecting her big, and they talk about her big wolf pack in a while. I think she's going to be there. Just I think in the short term she'll probably kill off Ilyn Payne, and then, but yeah, there's a point where people just have to be like, dude, there's hundreds of wolves. We've got to get a bunch of people together and like slaughter them off, like kill them off. Like this is getting ridiculous, right? Like it's a bit weird that there's this huge mass of wolves like killing people. People would get together and like mow them down at some point. I guess that would have to happen. Everybody talks about as well this Red Wedding 2.0 as like Lady Stoneheart killing off Freys, but the wolf pack is also a big threat in there, so for killing off a lot of characters. Let's see. Could you finish your thought on how the movie with some of the greatest acting of all time has the hugest plot hole? Mo Green is a time traveler. So we're talking about he's talking about the plot holes of Godfather and the Godfather Part 2. Okay, so I think I've talked about, if Carmine is still around doing his laundry, he should come back for this because Carmine's favorite movies are the Godfather. He likes the first two. I don't think he's into the Godfather 3. But if Carmine gets back from his doing laundry, but the essentially the first movie's plot, like structurally, like and thematically, doesn't make any sense, because the entire story of The Godfather is when somebody in the crime family dies, somebody else has to step up, and take over. And that's the way family is. Blood is thicker than water and all of this kind of stuff, right? Vito like is put aside, so everybody thinks that Sonny's going to be the character to rise up to take over the family, but it's not Sonny, and it's obviously not going to be Fredo. So Michael has to come in and be the crime family head and take over. And then he proceeds to stop all of the other crime families by simply killing off their head, which is ridiculous. As if like we didn't just establish in a 3-hour fucking movie that blood is thicker than water and that these are crime families and that once you take out the head, somebody else just takes over. Like, why that wouldn't apply to any of the other crime families is just ridiculously stupid. Like, think about it even in real life. Carline's back.
No, you're right about that being like, you're right about that. That was something that was always in the back. Godfather Part 2 is my favorite, but you're right about Part 1. Like Michael does actively like revel in the fact that he took out the members of the five families. And you're right, like they have sons and daughters and like cousins and like extended family in Sicily who never come back and take revenge. It's just glossed over. You're right.
Yep. And then Godfather 2, the big plot hole of Godfather 2 is that like the assassination at the beginning that gets the entire plot going doesn't make any sense because it's the assassins come in, they try to kill Michael. Somebody opens the blinds and then the assassins are killed. And you're like, oh my God, whoever planned this was a freaking genius. And then in the end, you find that no, it was Fredo. But Fredo didn't lift the blinds and Fredo didn't kill those guys. So who did it? So that's the big plot hole is the beginning of Godfather 2. Like, doesn't make any sense. Like, and it's not like they don't immediately reveal, like they reveal Fredo as the person right at the beginning, like right after he says, like, whoever planned this is a genius. And then they cut to Fredo. And you're like, it's not like it's some plot hole that, you know, by 3 hours into the movie, you don't care anymore. Like, it was right there. Like, who did this? Like, well, it wasn't Fredo. Who did it? And then, so people have like, I don't know. There are like different theories about like who did it and stuff like that. And there was a second person that betrayed the family, but it doesn't make any sense. Do you have any pictures of young Preston with hair? I think I've shown pictures of me young with hair.
I have one.
Yeah.
But I have one if you want it real quick. By the way, my echo thing. Turn on the echo cancellation thing, see if that works.
It's on.
I'm supposedly echoing. Oh, then
you fucker. You
have to
fuck.
What? What do you want me to do?
Dollar signs. I have the echo. Like, I don't know what happened.
I will get you some AirPods. I got you.
You there?
I will get you some AirPods. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
I have one that you sent me eons ago. It's like right here. It's you in like. Hold on, let me find it. Here it is. Oh, I just had it. Here. Look on Facebook. It's not the one with the hyenas.
No. Oh yeah. Okay, this is a good one. This is me in a Halloween costume that I made. There we go.
That's a Halloween costume?
Oh. Yeah. So did you ever see The Karate Kid? This is not. Did I take a?
Bits and pieces, not the whole movie.
You'll
have to make the picture a little smaller because it is a smaller one.
Let me see here. Here we go. Back when I. Is that gonna? Why is this not? Let me get a save image as. Come on. Here we go. Move this here. So this is sharper. There's sharper. So yeah. So one. So as much. So through my 20s, I was actually kind of. I had a little bit more. Baby face, a little more chubbiness in my face, but I had gone on a vacation to Ghana and I'd lost like 20 pounds. And so I came back and I was like looking pretty awesome. And that I was like, I was like skinny. And so this might be like height Preston. And so for Halloween, I decided to do the shower from Karate Kid, which, you know, I went to Home Depot and I bought a metal rod and like did the shower and like went to Joann Fabrics and got the spotted thing. But yeah, it's a really ridiculous scene from Karate Kid because so Karate Kid, Daniel wants to go to a party a Halloween party, but he's scared he's going to get bullied there, but he wants to see Elizabeth's shoe. And so he's like, if only I could go and be like invisible. And so they make this costume for him so that he can be hidden. But what's so funny about the costume is having done this costume, and I went out to parties and I went out to bars, you are the least invisible person. The minute you walk in, everybody's like, what the fuck? Why is there a shower here? Oh my God. Like you are the center of attention when you have this, you're walking around with this huge shower. And so it's kind of ridiculous because it's like the least, like give him a ghost sheet. Like there was a million things that Daniel could have done to be more invisible, but he's the shower. And so, yeah, that's me. Would you consider more in depth on the leftovers? I also think that show is amazing, but there's so many unanswered questions. The ending leaves me unsatisfied. Just for one, why is Patty a little girl in limbo? Kevin's psyche. There's definitely, I don't know if I'll ever have the time, just because there's so many things on my plate right now that I'll, and it's sad because the leftovers is great and everything. But there are some things with the leftovers that are big mysteries. There is some supernatural stuff that doesn't really make sense. So people haven't seen the show. The first the show is about 2% of the population like disappears, and everybody's kind of devastated by it. But of course, this is like just a metaphor. Like we lose 2% of our population every year. Like that's life, you know? But nonetheless, like that's the only supernatural thing that really happens, is just these people disappearing. And then the second season happens and a lot more supernatural stuff happens in that second season. Like, or at least in the first season, some other supernatural stuff happens, but you can chalk it up to people kind of being crazy and just seeing stuff. And then in the second season, there's a lot more supernatural stuff. There's a whole town where no one disappears. There's a random earthquake that saves our protagonist from drowning, that you're just like, come on, what are the chances that he jumps in a pool and then there's an earthquake that empties out the pool so he doesn't drown? Like, it's an insane amount of like, and then our protagonist starts having visions and he does meet people in those visions and sees them at this hotel. And then third season, they walk back from the supernatural stuff and it's much more grounded and real again. And they just kind of leave the second season mysteries unexplained, which, you know, if I were to actually say like second season is the weakest, but by far, like first and third season of Leftovers is incredible, but like second season is not my favorite. And that has a lot also to do with the fact that like the Sun plot line is so dumb in second season. Like what's the point of the entire Sun plot line in second season? It's ridiculous. But nonetheless, you know, not everything is answered. Not everything is answered, but still a great series. But yeah, that definitely, like, why these different people, like the whole limbo thing is never answered with regards to Kevin, which I don't think there is an answer. I just think they wrote this mystery box, they couldn't answer it, and the earthquake and the town and limbo are just like odd supernatural elements that will never be answered, and we just have to forget about them. Why would Lord Commander Corgyle take Mance as a ranger from the Shadow Tower to meet with Ned at Winterfell? Does Mance accompany Dennis to this meeting? I mean, I guess he's just traveling with anybody, just traveling with bodyguards. Um, the Now Dennis, are you talking about like Dennis Strong? I don't think Dennis would be around on that. Or is there another Dennis that I'm forgetting about in Ice and Fire? Besides Dennis Strong, Dennis Swan, Dennis Aaron. Man, there's actually a bunch of Dennises. Oh Jesus! Oh my gosh. Okay, Dennis Aaron, Dennis Darkland, Dennis Drum, Dennis Hart, Dennis Mallister. Oh, Commander of the Shadow Tower. Oh, there we go. Dennis Mallister. Okay, Jesus, I'm sorry. Um, it's got to be Dennis Mallister. Dennis Mallister is definitely old. Um, yeah, why would he take? Yeah, now I'm getting the question. So, at some point, Mance Rayder claims that he saw Ned at Winterfell because Lord Commander Corgyle did a trip and he brought with him Mance Rayder. But Mance Rayder was a ranger at the Shadow Tower. So does that make any sense? Like, why would he be there unless Dennis Mallister was there too? I mean, you're right. I think that nothing with Mance Rayder's stories make any sense at all, and I do wonder if half of them are lies, because it's just, and other people's stories about Mance Rayder don't make any sense. I think there does need to be somebody to sit down and like come up with a logical narrative for Mance Rayder, that explains things, or. Oh, but Jon remembers Mance. He makes some comment, right? About him. Um it really makes it stupid. I mean, I guess let's go with the theory that Ned was talking about settling the new gift. And if we're talking about settling the new gift, we would have to have all of the commanders on board. So it would be like, Cotter Pike, Dennis Mallister, and Corgyle maybe all came down, and let's say it's something like that. Because I'm trying to think history wise. According to he encountered Jon Snow playing a prank, and he promised not to tell. So that's my only explanation, is that somehow Ned was talking about settling the gift, and he wanted all of the commanders of the Night's Watch to kind of like understand it or something, and that Dennis Mallister had to be along too. That's my fan canon explanation. Do I think George was actually thinking about it? No, he was just writing some fucking shit. But that's my explanation, is that they were discussing settling the gift and they brought Dennis Mallister. I think that's absolutely the case. Okay. Um, will Littlefinger lose his tongue or Varys? Uh, I think that also like would not be great. Why would you kill golden gooses there? Those are some fantastic characters. Um, let's see. Highly recommend the film A Cure for Wellness. Baby thrown down wells, pure bloodlines and incest. Lots of inspiration from Lovecraft. Huh. Let's look at this. Cure for Wellness. Oh, Cure for Wellness is a 2016 psychological neo-gothic horror film. Um, Lockhart has to stay at a wellness center in the Swiss Alps. I think I vaguely heard about this. Huh. Yeah, anyway. But of course, like, well after George had had written this stuff, but yeah. I'm back with the echoes. Carmine recording inside a washing machine.
You're behind. You're behind.
I know. Um, let's see here. The Winds of Winter delay due to George R. R. Martin writing a time jump? If so, top pick for a fast forward pilot progression you'd want to see. That'd be funny. He decides to put back in the 5-year gap. No, there's no way that, first of all, he wouldn't throw out that much material for a 5-year gap jump. Considering that he had all these sample chapters left over from A Dance with Dragons. But I'm also just thinking about, like, man, that would just be really weird. Like imagine doing a 5-year time jump with Brienne and Jaime and everything in Oldtown and Arya, and like Dany in the Dothraki Sea, or at Vastoth Rock for 5 years. That would be some nuts stuff, right? What would Melisandre be doing at the Wall for 5 years? I mean, if you did a 5-year time jump, you essentially have to, like, kill Stannis, because there's no way he can survive. Even if he were to win the Battle of Winterfell, he wouldn't be able to survive 5 years because he'd need all the food and everything. But it would be hilarious if they're all wintering for 5 years and nothing's happened. It's almost laughable. Did Jon Con take Storm's End? Like, is he at Storm? Is he still at Griffin? Did he go back to Griffin's Roost and winter for 5 years? Does Cersei's trial not happen? That'd be pretty insane. It'd be pretty insane for it, but that would be nice. It'd be kind of funny. Has anyone submitted a fanfic chapter generated by AI? No, but the craziest one I saw was somebody gave it a generated AI for, like, is Quentin alive, which I want to say was pretty good, or unless it was, like, somehow, like, faked. But the response was like, it's unknown, it's uncertain if Quentin is alive, because he does not, like, even though and it mentions, like, body swaps and, like, not being like his death not being shown on page and stuff like that, which I don't know if it was real or not. It seems almost it seems impossible that something so specific would be in ChatGPT's, like, wheelhouse. Is Pate lying about what he saw? Carl and company are dead. No, Carl and company are not dead, or at least we don't know if it's Carl and company. So there's 9 mutineers at Craster's Keep, and 5 mutineers are killed by cold hands and eaten and cannibalized by Bran and company, which leaves 4. And the only one we know is one of them has, like, a lop hand or something. They identify, like, one of the body parts. Is it clubfoot? Is it? And if I made a mistake, which one, we'll just swap them out. It's not really that important, but this is pretty clear in the sense that if you go to the Dance with Dragons like appendix, like they list everybody at Craster's Keep, which is Dirk, Allo, Garth, Monty, Grubbs, Allen, Carl Clubfoot, Orphan Oss, Muttering Bill. And then when we that's 9, right? Dirk, Allo, Garth, Monty, Grubbs, Allen, Carl, Orphan, Bill. That's 9 mutineers. And then if we go to Bran's chapter, let's see here. If I put Carl, it should be Dirk or something. I shouldn't have. Shouldn't have. What? Let's see. It's trying to find the quote of them eating people. As a cloak, I'm gonna have to find black cloak here. I mean, it's fairly done meat, cloaked and hooded once the wolves were done with their clothing. He saw the falling snow began to bury what remained of them, so pale against the ragged cloaks and breeches black. And then had shared. The ranger studied his hands. Damn it! Where's the number of people here? I have to bring up that. Black Night's Watch. They were Night's Watch. I'm sorry for taking a long time on this one. I'm going as fast as I can on trying to find the quote here. What I thought it says here uneasy. See, it's like I'm like searching for these words. Like, how many times does George use uneasily and like find uneasily? It says here the boy stirred uneasily. Why is this not coming up? Old man glanced uneasily. It's amazing how often I find like errors in searching. Oh well, I'm gonna have to move on. But I'm pretty sure it's that 5 people die and that 4 survive. But I'm which ones is the issue. But that can all be fixed. But I mean, still, if you want people to think that Pate is lying in his glass candle, kind of thing. But I agree about Tyrion. It's an Alt-Shift-X claim. Speaking of films, what is your favorite film and why? Do you have a favorite director and actor? This kind of shifts over time. On what films were kind of my favorite. Like for a long time, like I really liked like 2001. I would say would be my favorite movie, or like I really liked Fight Club and I really liked Donnie Darko. And then over time, like they all like I still think they're okay movies, but like they definitely have lost their luster with me. It's like what you think is really awesome and cool at at 18 and 20 kind of changes over time. And so I don't know like what my favorite movie of all time is. Like, I mean, something I could just watch endlessly. I mean, there's Star Wars. Like, you can always just watch that movie endlessly, or Raiders or something, where I've seen it a million times and it's just good every time. And there's a lot of movies that I sort of like, I see them later, like, and I really appreciate them. Like, I really appreciate Jaws as a movie. Like, I'm just like, wow, Jaws is really good. And you know, I can sit down and watch Jaws over and over again, just because it's just such a perfectly done movie like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have to put some time into it, because it's been so long since I've like seen a movie that's just been kind of like epic, where I'm just like, whoa, that's a great movie. And I haven't had the time to like go back and watch like the classics. I'm trying to think of if I bring up like the top 100 like what AFI movies, and I'm trying to think like which ones I really think are really great. Like, I certainly don't think Citizen Kane is that great. I don't think Casablanca is that great, and our Godfather, Gone with the Wind. No, I really like Lawrence of Arabia. That's a really beautiful, great movie. I think The Graduate's horrible. Schindler's List is boring. It's a Wonderful Life, too long. Bridge Over the River Kwai is all right, kind of overrated. Psycho, great movie. Chinatown, not that great. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is fucking incredible. Sad movie though. It's hard to watch. Grapes of Wrath, no. Like, some of these movies, I'm like, I've seen these and I'm like, no, that movie is not good. Like, how is it on the 100th like of all time? Grapes of Wrath, 2001, I think is brilliant. You know, E.T. Strangelove is, yeah, it's okay. Bonnie and Clyde's okay. Apocalypse Now, whatever. It's funny. Annie Hall is pretty good, but I watched it a second time. On rewatch, Annie Hall is not as good as it is on the first time. Things like that. Midnight Cowboy, completely overrated. Dr. Zhivago, that's all right. West Side Story is fucking great. That's a great movie. Rear Window, I like it a lot. But man, you can go down these and just be like, I don't know. It's really hard. Oh, they put Jaws at 48. Man. They put Amadeus at 53? Huh. That's okay. I mean, it's just kind of weird stuff. Raiders is on there. Vertigo. Tootsie at 62? Tootsie? I don't understand it, but I can't pick a favorite. Have you ever told the story of how you ended up in Taiwan? The second time, that's my wife's job. I mean, you know, she works for the State Department. The first time I came here 20 years ago was I came here as an English teacher, but been a long time. Does Jon Con know that Varys is working for Illyrio? If not, is Illyrio lying to Jon about his spy in King's Landing? Jon Con definitely knows that Illyrio and Varys are working together, and that's they because Tristan Rivers mentions Illyrio in A Dance with Dragons, and they talk about this like in the collective company of the captains, the captains and sergeants. By the way, like in the text, the people everybody is called captains, but in the appendix they're called sergeants. So it's just like, I don't know if they're captains or sergeants, but like, but the captains, sergeants like talk about Illyrio and like the fat man's plan. So Varys, like, they definitely know that Illyrio is on their team and everything, and that's all connected. And I think now there is some discussion of whether or not Varys and Illyrio are on the exact same page, and that has to do with their discussion back in a Game of Thrones about the speed of things and how like Illyrio's like, oh, we need to go faster, and Varys is like, we need to go slower, or it's the reverse. Varys is like, we need to go faster, and Illyrio's like, we need to go slower, and stuff like that. Yeah, he definitely knows that. I don't know if he knows like what their background is, or if, if they care about that, or things like that. But I mean, Jon Con mentions the spider, and then he meets Illyrio in Tyrion 2. I mean, he definitely knows that they're all like on the same team. So, and then now the question though is about like the spy in King's Landing. I mean, there must be another. I mean, there's other little birds, right? And he still does have a spy in King's Landing. I'm trying to remember, because Varys is still there. He's just doesn't want to. Varys is still in the walls. Maybe he doesn't want to out the fact that Varys is in the walls. I have to go back and read like what conversation happens between Jon Con and Illyrio and Tyrion 2. But little birds. So I don't know. I'll have to go back and see this. So I'll have to put a pin in that. Euron to make Leighton jump off the high tower when he conquers Oldtown. After all, how will we know we can fly unless we leap from some tall tower? That could be an interesting thing. It does seem inevitable that Euron is going to take Oldtown, and what he's going to do with Oldtown at that point is a real question. But yeah, the high towers. If they're just executing people kind of willy-nilly as they did in the Forsaken chapter at the Isle of Pigs, does he have any reason not to execute Leighton? Did he execute the people at the Shield Islands? I think we saw them alive, and then we heard about them dead, and so we weren't really sure. But the Ravens had already gone, so it was really odd. There's a lot of confusion about who's getting killed. Because I think when Cersei hears in Cersei 8 about the Shield Islands, she mentions that a bunch of a character has been executed, but the Ravens had already flown. So it was very odd that they would be that she would think they were dead when they were alive when the Ravens flew. But unless especially considering like the Maesters would have been sending those. Or there's another source or something. But yeah, it's that could definitely be something that happens, is him getting tossed from the high tower. You mentioned before that Dragonbinder, in a twist, actually binds humans to dragons. Is it possible for a horn made of werewood to do the same? Yeah, this was an idea of mine, that the horn bound humans to be influenced versus dragons. But as I've rethought that scene, I'm like, are they just influenced by the gold, or are they just Carmine's not even on. I don't need my headphones. And everything, are they caught up in the moment, or is it something with Aaron's telepathy and things like that? Like, does there need to be any magic to Dragonbinder? And I'm kind of in a place where it's like, if you can remove the magic, like if it's possible to remove the magic, like why not? And like maybe that the horn does nothing. the horn does nothing. Did I have that? I didn't put that one up yet. The only weird kind of supernatural element is so far is that after blowing the horn, the guy kind of has like smoke come from his mouth, and like what explanation for why that's there? He hears, we also don't know if that guy actually died. Like Euron tells Victarion that he died, but we don't know if he actually died or not. So it's kind of funny on that. The favorite Lovecraft story, mine is Doom of Sarnath. I actually find Lovecraft is a really, really unique writing style. It's hard to get into. I don't know if I have a favorite. Like, I don't know if I've read enough of like Lovecraft to really have a favorite. But because I have read some just for the Ice and Fire stuff, but I don't think I have any favorite. I'm sorry on that. In the Hedge Knight, Sir Eustace talks about the son of Maegor. Was he misremembering things, or is this an error of George R. R. Martin? Let me bring that up. That's an interesting, because there was some discussions about, because for a while it's like, was Maegor actually sterile? But I think in Fire and Blood they actually give him at least a baby that eventually dies. Let me think here. When they finally like retcon him, so does he have a son, or does he get a so I want to say, or at least like one of his wives is pregnant, to prove that he wasn't sterile. It says Queen Alice got pregnant. She went into labor 3 months later and gave birth to a monstrosity. So she did like birth something or other. Now, Maegor having a kid in the Sworn Sword. It was Aegon's son, King Maegor, who took Cold Moat from us when Ormond Osgrey spoke against the suppression of the Stars and Swords. What else? I have to read this because I'm not finding the right thing. I'm not finding anything. About that, unless we're talking about like Maegor, son of Aerion Brightflame. So I may have to get more information, because I'm not finding the quote in the Sword and Sword about any son of Maegor. But I might be Osgrace. Yeah. So I don't know, something. I'll look out for something more specific on that, if you could direct me to it. Your theory on Jon Con and the future role of the story. For the most part, like what I think George had planned is that Jon Con is going to become really successful, and he's going to bring Aegon to take the throne in King's Landing. And that way, when Daenerys is on Dragonstone, you have a parallel situation to the Dance of the Dragons with Aegon in King's Landing and Rhaenyra on Dragonstone. Like, you know, with a dwarf advisor and all of this kind of stuff, like parallel situation. So for the most part, I think Jon successful in conquering the kingdoms and having a lot of support. And you know, I think his grayscale should like spread and, you know, start infecting people as well, and that he will go more and more insane. And for the most part, I think that's like his role. Like, you know, not that now, you know, somebody pointed out to me, like, logically speaking, there's not that much time left in the story. Like Winds of Winter, Dream of Spring, at most there's like a year left in the story. Like how advanced could the grayscale epidemic be? And that's all very true. And then somebody else said, well, maybe like the grayscale could spread in an interesting way. Like maybe like ticks could, or fleas could get on ravens and then spread through the ravens and get through the kingdom or something like that. Or maybe the pandemic's just going to be isolated to King's Landing. It's kind of true, but I think George, when he first kind of planned things, he was thinking that this would take place over a longer period of time with a 5-year gap and all the sorts of stuff. And Game of Thrones was like a year and change. So it's and then, but instead now we're getting like books that take place over only a few months. So, but that's for the most part I see as like Jon Conn's role, until he eventually is, you know, killed by Daenerys, you know. Your theory on Jon, I just did that one. Could Robb have married Cat to Theon? That would have been something, right? That would have been something. Because Cat never liked Theon either. So we tend to think about we tend to think about Cat with the show, you know, and the actress for Catelyn and her age, which gives us a different kind of idea. I'm trying to think about like Michelle Fairley's age. She was born in 1964. So when Game of Thrones came out, let's see, she's 57 now. So like when Game of Thrones came out, she was what, like, when was first season of Game of Thrones was 2011. So that was 12 years ago. When Game of Thrones came out, she was 45. So like when we see her in Game of Thrones, like she's a bit old to have kids. She's, you know, but in the books, she's only like 34, 35. So, and she specifically says that she has time for another kid, and she's hoping that some sex that she has with Ned at the beginning of a Game of Thrones will like lead to a pregnancy. And so this idea that like, yes, Cat can remarry and Cat can have more kids is definitely a plot point in a Game of Thrones, you know, that she's still a fertile woman. Now Robb, now Theon getting married to Cat, I think in Robb's mind, Theon was so loyal that he didn't need to give him a marriage. That in the end he would give Theon Casterly Rock or something as a lordship in that war. So had he married Theon to, I think, you know, he was saving Cat for something or other. I think, was Cat on the table when they went to take the bridge from the Freys, you know? So, but it's a funny one. It's like the Cat Jon romance theories that's the real reason there's like this hatred, is that they're secretly banging. What do you make of Mance fleeing the Shadow Tower in the morning? Wouldn't you run at night? Oh, God. Everything about Mance's stories are ridiculous. Yeah, there's no reason. I mean, maybe there was a shifting. My only explanation is maybe there was a changing of the guards, the changing of the sentinels on top of the wall, and that if he went then, like when some people are like at dawn or something, some people are changing and they're tired and they're not thinking, and so he goes at that point and tries to get away or something. Um, that'd be my only. Cleftjaw and Tabo Mott are doing the nasty. Tabo Mott is the guy who makes all of the funny shaped helmets in King's Landing and is able to reforge Valyrian steel. Somehow he would be up with Dagmar Cleftjaw and having a nice relationship like in The Last of Us or something, you know. Chinatown is better than 2001. I don't know, man. Like Chinatown, like once you get past like, oh, there's going to be this like surprise incest at the end of the story, like what really happens in it, it's a lot of confusion and nothing's really resolved in the end, and um I forgot the sequel which like relates. um so I don't know. I was not thrilled by Chinatown as a movie. Fun fact, 58% of CIA agents work abroad as English teachers. Now, this is of course a joke, but this is for the most part not true. So
Is it though? Is it a joke?
So who is a so here's some quick things about first of all, they're not agents. Okay, CIA have officers, and the people, the assets that they recruit are the agents. So an American, like there's no agents that are Americans that are employed by the CIA. Like the agents are the foreigners that the CIA officers convert. So always this is like one of the kind of basic things, but also the CIA fundamentally has a problem in that they're human intelligence as opposed to NSA, which is listening, or like NRO, which is like satellites and stuff like that. So you've got like 17 intelligence agencies, and CIA, their specialty is human intelligence. But the problem with human intelligence is that if you put somebody in a country, they need to have a reason to be there. They need to have a cover. So the cover that the easy cover that you can give them is you make them a State Department employee. However, you make them a State Department employee, and the reason you do this is that if they're arrested, you can get them home through diplomatic immunity. While if you make them a business leader or a teacher or somebody like that, they have no protection and they are vulnerable and they can be picked up and killed and arrested, and the US government can do nothing. That you are SOL. Now, not that there aren't CIA officers like that, but it's a huge risk. And so this is the whole joke where people are constantly accusing people that work for the State Department of being CIA officers, is that the easy cover is that you make them State Department, and that way, if they have diplomatic immunity, you can pull them home. But the problem is now it's really easy to identify the CIA officers. You just assume that everyone at the embassy is one, but also like diplomatic immunity is not just one. It's not a binary thing. There's like absolute diplomatic immunity, and then there's layers down. And hardly anybody has absolute diplomatic immunity except for like heads of sections, like the management section or the consular section, and the officers. So like it's very easy for a foreign government to figure out who your human intelligence are by just being like, oh, who has absolute diplomatic immunity, you know. And so this is why, like, this is a kind of fundamental problem, and why, like, the CIA has, like, never been able to do anything, is that you either put your workers at risk, or, like, you out them immediately. So but this is my, you know, thing, like, what has the CIA ever done that's been good? When have they won? You know, what have they successfully done? Like, nothing. Like the move.
He's lying to you all. He really does work for the CIA. I'm telling you right now. You right now.
You know, it's where has been their great victory? You know, their great victory is convincing Hollywood that they do stuff, and everybody thinking that, like, oh yeah, they're doing all this stuff. They're doing nothing. Yes. Yeah. The is Haviland Tough Judge Holden in the future? Let's see. Judge Holden is a villain from the novel Blood Meridian. He is similar in that he's a big bald guy who has, like, pale hair. Is he also albino? Physical appearance. He is bald. Well over 6 foot tall, hairless. Yeah, that does sound like Haviland Tough. He does look pale in all of these pictures, but, you know. By the way, I found out recently that the whole albino thing that George does, that he based on Michael Moorcock, comes from this one albino character from, like, the 1920s, called, like, Zenith, I think. Zenith the albino.
What? That's an actual thing?
Yeah.
Albino.
So Zenith the albino was this villain back in these, like, 1920s detective stories, and he Michael Moorcock read all of these, and so he made Elric an albino based on Zenith, and then George pops in all of the albinos based on Michael Moorcock. So it all comes from Zenith the albino. Weird stuff.
So George got it from Moorcock, and Moorcock got it from this guy. I wonder who this guy got it from.
I don't know. It's kind of weird, right? Like why do they like to choose albinos as villains? You know, like, why is it in because in the Tom Hanks movie, that silly book about symbols, Da Vinci Code. That Jazz is 10 out of 10. I've never seen That Jazz. It's a great movie that year. Is or all That Jazz. I've seen. You know what? I've seen bits of All That Jazz. That's where the guy's like, he's like dying, right? And that. I think I have seen bits of All That Jazz, and it's a very I do just remember being like an insanely emotionally sad movie.
Oh, is that from when you were talking about, like, the top 100 best whatever films?
Yeah. It's
Let me guess. Funny. Casablanca is one. It's always one.
Casablanca was like 3. They always put Citizen Kane as number 1.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
it's usually top 3.
Casablanca is usually up there.
For me, it's The Departed.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for that ending of The Departed, I'd like The Departed a lot. But that stupid rat ruins a lot. But I mean, I like Casablanca. I do think Casablanca is a really good movie, but uh, you know, do you want to
This is
watch?
actually not really. Tarantino has been so. I'm sorry. Go ahead and read it because
Yeah, yeah,
Tarantino has said there are one film he thinks is perfect. Now it's Jaws.
yeah. Tarantino described Jaws as the perfect film. Radam, is Shakespeare overrated or the GOAT? Favorite Shakespeare play and why? He clearly inspired George R. R. Martin. Um, George R. R. Martin clear. I mean, Shakespeare is absolutely 100% the GOAT. Like you can't like. I, I mean, granted, like everybody is overrated but you know, does Shakespeare deserve all of the attention and praise that he gets? Considering, like, no, but he's still the GOAT. He's still the best. Whether he deserves like the absolute like English literature and society is obsessed with Shakespeare on the same level as the Bible, right? Like the number of literary references to Shakespeare is equivalent to the number of literary references to the Bible, which is pretty insane, right? Like this one playwright. So he is the best, but at the same time, like, does he deserve like that much of the attention? Probably not. No, But yeah, I do think Jaws is just the perfect film in how it's paced and how entertaining it is. And fucking Richard Dreyfuss is so goddamn good. And it was just lightning in a bottle, the whole thing. I mean, I think it's near perfect. Like, there's definitely some flaws here and there, but it's just an incredible movie. When's the last time you watched Jaws, Carmine?
Oh, it's been eons, and I've seen bits and pieces. There's so many movies where I've just seen bits and pieces. And to Mr. Miller here, can you please show me a citation for this? Tarantino saying this because I read the article where Tarantino was going crazy about supposedly the best film of all time, which was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I remember him saying that.
Well, I mean, Tarantino just kind of like talks and talks, and he's going to contradict himself because he's got the gift of gab. I find it interesting that Tarantino. So that like Tarantino co-wrote Pulp Fiction, right?
He co-wrote it. I thought he
Yeah.
just wrote the whole thing.
No. Here's the thing: is he co-wrote Pulp Fiction, and the other writer, he kind of got shafted in history. He got the Oscar, but at the same time, like if you watch the movie, it just says like written by Tarantino, and like they were like the studio is like removing the guy's name and everything. And so the dude like clearly did not have the career of Quentin Tarantino. But I think Quentin Tarantino like felt bad in the end, and he started a podcast last year with the guy, where they just talk about movies. And it's just like, because when Tarantino started, it was like him and this guy like talking about movies and being two dudes that loved movies. And Tarantino exploded, and this guy didn't, and he was cheated out of like a lot, and then in the end, like Tarantino's like, no, in the end, like this guy's my friend, and we like talking about movies. But yeah, Jaws is just perfectly paced. I've never seen a movie paced as well as Jaws, where you're never bored. You're never bored. And Jaws is also very interesting in that it's two acts. It's not a 3-act structure, it's a 2-act structure, and it works so well. Like there's first half of the movie and there's second half of the movie, and they are completely different tones, and they're both so gripping. And they're I don't know, it's just I don't even know which half I like more. I think I might like the first half more, and like the mayor being a freaking like the mayor just ignoring everything. And like Richard Dreyfuss being like, no, I've got this theory about feeding patterns. Let's see. Do you think you and Carmine should watch Succession final season when it comes out? You need to do some quick content, get some views. Have you seen much of Succession, Carmine?
No, I have not. This is one of those things where I don't know if I would even watch it. It doesn't seem like that's my up my alley. Like you talked about it briefly before, and how like the first season's a drag. I think you said.
No, 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 no. It's not. I like it. I do, but I think some characters are drags. Like it's a multiple character thing, and so you're trying to get back to the characters you love, and not all the characters are necessarily the characters you love. And so I do think it's good. I do think it's good, but I just haven't gotten around to like binging the rest of it. Just first season. So it's got Macaulay Culkin's brother in it, and some other.
He's a brother.
Yeah.
Looking this up. His brother is a fucking brother. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I know a lot of people have been screaming at me to get around to Succession. I guess final season already. Jeez, not much time. Not much time. Hold on a second. Did Jason Mallister send a sorrowful man? He did not. If you're on the fan fiction, like who sent the sorrowful man? I don't think it was.
Which one?
Jesus. Yeah, so there's a sorrowful man at the end of the prologue, and there's a mystery of who sent him and why. And I think there's enough information in the prologue to figure out who is a good candidate for who murdered the people. So I mean, go back to the political discussion where they're sitting around talking about like their trade and everything, and you get more a better notion on like who might have killed them. I think it's set up that there's various suspects. Was it Jane Westerling? Was it somebody else? But plus like there's 3 sorrowful men introduced, so there are going to be some more coming up. Okay, back to Eustace says, was the son of King Maegor Aegon who took Coldmoat from us? Oh, the son. Oh, when I read that, I thought it was just King Maegor. Let me read that again. I like went to that line and I was like, oh, it was King Maegor. It was the son of King Maegor? Oh yeah, 'twas Aegon's son. Oh, no. This is the version I have that says so I'm on search here. And we might get to the bottom of this mystery if it was a So you was the son of King Maegor. I have here in this search it says 'twas Aegon's son, King Maegor. So Maegor is the son. But I wonder if who took Coldmoat from us. Let me check real quick if that was a typo change. 'twas son of King Maegor, because son of King Maegor. Because Maegor is the son. Let me see if there's any was the son of King Maegor. Aegon, who took Coldmoat. Hmm. So I mean, it'd be interesting if you have like if there was like an older version or something. Because when I do the search, and I don't know how many versions, if there are many more versions of the Sworn Sword, um, if that was the switch, but twas Aegon's. That's I mean that's fascinating if there's a previous version. What is mine? Because I have my version of Sworn Sword. Let me look up my version real quick and see if the search is different from my version. Because I have an electronic version of Sworn Sword. Rogue Prince. Oh, Clamp it down. Come on, download. Okay. And now I am in my version of Sworn Sword. Can I do a fine? Yeah, so my electronic version has "'Twas Aegon's son, King Maegor," instead of "'Twas Aegon's," you know, "'Twas Aegon's son, King Maegor, who took hold moat from us." That's in my version as well. I mean, there may be a previous version or something, but it's first I've heard of. So Maegor is the son according to my version. Women can get pregnant up until menopause. Obviously, women who have children in their late teens and early 20s are more likely to have later in life. Well, that's true. Yeah, I think it's something about like practicing out the womb or whatever. But yeah, the definitely Cat was seen as fertile and somebody that could be birthed. And this actually gets back into Robb's will. Like a lot of people are like, why would Cat be made queen? Like there can be no future of House Stark. And it's like, of course there can. Like she would then have like marry and have kids, and they'd be like, oh, but there wouldn't be Stark blood. It's like, well, they're all Starks. She could marry like a Karstark or somebody, and it would be fine. I like that you get the ambiguous way of Martin's writing, where he intended to tease many connections and mysteries, but never confirms them. Yeah, I'm actually like, we try to be a little ambiguous, but at the same time, like George is definitely growing the story when in his writing, and you're kind of entering at a point where the story needs to turn around and come back and like answer about a lot of stuff. So I would say that like our fan fiction has like some mysteries, but many fewer than like George writes. Like George will just like, if you can't think of something, he'll just write something new, like write some more. Like we have like a conscious effort to like pull in characters that have already appeared and wrap up plot lines. So it's something. But it's definitely like conscious effort to try to like mimic his style as much as possible while trying to wrap it up at the same time. It's tough. The Bible is a great story, Preston. Read it closely. There's been this like I've always thought about doing like a prepping for winter style kind of thing, but with the Bible. Years ago, I read something called Blogging the Bible, which was this thing on Slate for a while, where the guy eventually made it into a book called Good Book. But he was this Jewish American guy. And he's like, when you run into like Christian evangelicals, they're constantly telling you like, read the Bible, read the Bible, read the Bible, as if you would read the Bible and find enlightenment and find Jesus, just through reading it. Like everyone says that. and so he did that. He's like, well, let's just read the Bible. And so he like blogged about his like reading of the Bible. And it was a very enjoyable kind of blog because, it's from a guy who doesn't have a Christian background and he's just kind of reading it objectively. Like, what am I supposed to be taking from this? And so he's like reading the Bible and he's just like, man, there is a lot of like listing of names and like heritage stuff, like who owns the Holy Land, like why is this so important to people, like why is it so important that they emphasize that we are the ones that legally own this land, like what's the point here, like and he makes it through the whole Old Testament, and then people kind of like are like, dude, you didn't read the New Testament, like that's like the entire point, like because he goes through the Old Testament and it's actually like more brutal than he thought. He's like, holy crap. Like people talk about Old Testament God being an asshole, but like, man, when you actually go through it line by line, like thinking about it, he's the worst. And that's why everybody's like, but you have to read the New Testament, which is like the redemption story of God. And you're like, and I don't think he ever had the time. But I always thought about that, like going through it, like line by line, but, that's like a divinity degree. Like, They and it's such a long book. What's blogging the Bible? What's the guy?
Sounds like a great YouTube channel. This guy.
Oh, it would have been. Yeah, you could totally, because you get so many views. Like if you just like went story by story, like you get Christians, you get atheists, you get everybody being like, if you made it entertaining, it'd be endless content. And you just be like, well, this is like what we're talking about. I mean, it's kind of like, that's a podcast idea as well. Like I'm sure it's been done, but like a bunch of dudes just sitting around talking about like the Bible that they read. Like you get like, I mean, imagine you get like like a super religious person, you get like a Jewish person, you get a Muslim, you get an atheist, and you have them sit around like talking about the Bible.
Oh boy.
Right?
That sounds problematic right there, but that sounds great. It's problematic in some. I feel bad for the Muslim guy because he's gonna get shit on for not, doing his job harder.
Yeah, I mean,
how it goes.
Yeah, David Plotz was his name, and how far did he get? David Plotz. Because I think he wrote good book. The bizarre, hilarious, disturbing, marvelous, and inspiring things I learned when I read every single word of the Bible. Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing though, because there is quite a disconnect when people are like, "Oh, you need to read the Bible. We need to teach the Bible," and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna read it." What? Like, I'm gonna call you on your bluff. Is Victarion reaving and collecting ships to augment his fleet to take Euron, the best standalone story in all of A Song of Ice and Fire? There's some really funny stuff in Victarion, Victarion: A Dance with Dragons. I'm not sure if it's really like standalone because there's he's definitely referencing Dany and stuff that happens to Dany, and it's not as funny if you don't know about the Dany stuff, and obviously like it links into the Tyrion story with Morocco and Makoro, and stuff like that. Though I remember my first read of A Dance with Dragons, and I think Victarion was one of my favorite chapters. I mean, besides the chapters I always mention, and people get angry that I talk the same thing over and over again. But like Victarion was probably also one of my favorite chapters when reading it the first time. I think probably like Quentyn, Victarion, and our Ironborn boy in the north were my favorite. But I loved like his growing fleet. Like, oh my gosh, you're getting this fleet, and it's just hilarious, like who he runs into and how he handles things, and stuff like that. It's a good story. It's a good story. But if we're talking like best standalone story, I mean, would you think? I mean, is the Quentin story or the Theon story like better stories by themselves compared to Victarion in that? You know, I think so. Like, I think you can read them by themselves, and they're more fun. I'm trying to think of like anything else that like compares, because you know there's other standalone stories you can like read, like Samwell's journey. His journey north of the wall or his journey south like can be a standalone story, but not every chapter is equal to another. Jon's trip out with Corin Halfhand in A Clash of Kings can be like seen as a self-contained story. But yeah, but considering how like short and exciting it is, I'd say Victarion is up there. And I think George felt that too, because he originally wanted to kill him off and then decided not to. Random econ question. If all countries suddenly adopt the same currency, what's the worst that could happen? I've been curious about this for a while. So, actually a lot of economists do not recommend going to single currencies. And the reason for this is that if your country has its own currency and it's not doing well, okay, let's say your economy is doing poorly and it's tough times in your country. What happens is the currency will become cheap and your labor is cheap. And that way, then all of a sudden your products are cheap. And then people start buying your products and your country does better. And the people do better because people are buying the products, right? You have that advantage because your products are cheap. Now, the problem is that when you go onto the same currency as, say, a rich country, now your products are expensive. And so like things are going poorly for your country, but you don't have any like advantage in the exports because like the you know your currency can if some other country is doing well, the currency can appreciate, and then you have no control over it. You also can't do things like if you have a debt crisis, print some money or issue bonds or things like that in order to like get rid of debt and come up with cash all at once. And so it's kind of being on the same currency is kind of a bad thing for poor countries, which is kind of funny with the EU, because with the EU, it's the rich countries that are complaining. And the poor countries like, say, Greece and Spain would absolutely benefit from having their own currencies, or Portugal, so that their products could be cheap, so they can, send out their cheap olives and their cheap wines, and that they can do better. But they're not the ones bitching. It tends to be these rich countries that are actually like getting all of the benefits of the EU are the ones that are like, oh, we need to leave. We keep bailing out Greece. And it's like, well, you're kind of causing Greece's troubles because you all have one currency and they can't get out of their situation. Their exports aren't as competitive, and their debts grow faster because they're on the euro, and then they get blamed for like some bailout. So like I kind of have sympathy for Greece and Spain and Portugal and that they stick things through, they deal with these situations, but and the rich countries are whining about it, but most economists would say like being on one currency is not a good thing. Now, the reason that the EU does the one currency is that there was so much lost there's so much waste in trade because of like converting the currency, that they wanted to get rid of it. Like, oh, our products could flow quicker if it's all in the euro. Tourists could flow quicker. Having traveled Europe, back when there were many currencies, it was a big pain in the butt. It was a huge pain in the butt that you arrive at a new country with your French francs and you're like, okay, I got to change them to Spanish pesetas. And a few days later, I got to change everything to Italian lira. And then, that was a pain. So I get it, to not have that deadweight loss of the trade. But I think in an era, if we get to the era where everything's electronic, it would actually kind of make sense for every country to have their own currency. And then if it's electronic, there's hardly any loss and no problems. But that would be the best of both worlds. But we kind of have to get to that point. To prune extra story branches in A Song of Ice and Fire, why not copy of the Birds? A significant set of the characters' plots could just end when the apocalypse event suddenly breaks through the wall, eclipsing Game of Thrones. That's true. I mean, I do kind of think though it's a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out to just kill everybody and have something else like eclipse events. Like, oh, who cares about that? Like, we had this really important story and you want to see resolution to it. Oh no, they just die. So I just think it's a cop-out to not have like a good resolution to it all, not that it isn't done, where it's just like, I don't know what to do with this person. So they died. The moon door as a teleporter to the moon. I don't know about a teleporter, but like, I mean, this idea that like they're getting beamed out of the moon door and then come back in sky cells and stuff. It's
No. Preston, he's onto something.
Yeah, I know. But like, I think it's the moon door maybe as a sense of you open it up, you can see the moon and then talk like through a glass candle or something, or might have been a thing at one time. I do wonder, are there theories about like sci-fi wise, like why have like an open honeycomb like prisoner cell? Like, I understand like, yes, the intimidation thing, but could they be something else? Could they be something else? Like, or do you just, see something at in Turkey or something with carved holes in the rock that he was like, oh, there's sky cells. Your theory on Maegor and the future in the story. I think a lot of people would like Maegor to be Marwyn, just to have that link. Like, why not? And there's a question of like, timeline wise, could Marwyn have made it that quickly? And then if he did, what the hell happened to Gilly, or say, Aemon's body, or all of the books and things like that? And for that reason, because there's so many other interesting things on the Cinnamon Wind, like the books and like Aemon's body and like Gilly and the babe and things like that, I would want the Cinnamon Wind as a ship to appear. And so I'm just hoping that Maegor is not Marwyn. Like, I understand that George probably left it open, but I don't think that that's really the case, So, so Maegor, I think it'd be interesting to have Maegor have his own future, but he's going to be following around Victarion, right? So I think Victarion's going to get a dragon, and then Maegor is going to go on with Victarion and be his advisor, then from there on, and convince him to do bad and stupid things, and we'll see how it goes. But Maegor is going to be cool. He also is somebody. First of all, like, Victarion needs somebody to talk to. Dusky woman doesn't talk, like, so who else is, I mean, we could pick somebody random, like on his ship. I don't know who's exactly there, like Lord Spar, some random person. Quentin Humble or somebody, picking random names.
George
But
did say that Makoro will be very important going forward. Well, he didn't specifically state Makoro. He just got someone tried to ambush him on why he doesn't have a lot of non-white characters of importance in Ice and Fire, and he said, "Well, you know what I'm talking about, that interview."
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he meant Makoro, unless he meant Alyaya.
I mean, Alyaya should come back as a character. We need her. Trying to think of other, like, I mean, I guess there's Black Bollock. There's some of Barristan Squires. Right, and then that's not many. Kahuro Mo, not many. But are Sam's sisters hot? I don't think so. I don't think. Oh, Sam's sisters. Yeah. No, I think Sam's sisters could be hot. Why not? I don't think. At first, I was like Gilly's sisters, and I was like, no, Gilly is definitely not. I don't think she's in the show. In the book, she's not supposed to be hot, and neither is like her sisters. But like the show, they made Gilly super hot. But it's kind of But could Sam's sisters be hot? Why not? Does Sam have more than one sister? I know he has one, but I'm trying to remember how many sisters he had.
This guy's been waiting to ask this question so he can get started on his Sam fanfic chapter, just to send it to you.
Yeah.
This is the one. He was just waiting for this go ahead.
Well, this is. I know where this is going. Oh, okay. He does. He actually has 3 sisters. It gets into weird stuff because like Sam is clearly George, and George R. Martin has a sister. So like when George writes about all this like incest stuff, we're always like, what did does George have something weird with his with his sister? So like I'm kind of going down that, like is there something about like George's sisters being hot? We'll see. If Cotter Pike and Dennis Mallister did go with Corgyle, would they tell Jon? Would Pike and Mallister tell Gior about the gift? Did they agree with settling the gift? Including Benjen's mutiny? I mean, for some reason it didn't. I don't think it worked, right? They kept talking about it like they said it was a dream for spring or something. Something way down the years. So it might be something like that Dennis Mallister was against it or Cotter Pike was against it, and they had to wait for those characters to die and have somebody else come into power to agree or something like that. Would they tell Gior about the gift? I mean, I think of course they would. I don't think there's anything like precluding like Gior Mormont. Did Gior say something that he doesn't know about settling the gift? Because I think like Gior, I don't know if the settling the gift, like idea, like it just comes up in Storm of Swords, right? As this backstory that does not make sense at all. It does not make like George totally screwed up. Okay, this is just a plot hole. One of the biggest plot holes, like in the story, is the gift. Okay, so like a Game of Thrones. Okay, Jon Snow doesn't think he has a future. Doesn't think he has a future. Joins the Night's Watch because he has no future, and then in A Storm of Swords, they're like, no, actually, like Ned wanted to settle the gift and was gonna make Jon a lord. Like, then why did he fucking join the Night's Watch? Like, this is like it's such a screw up. It's such a dumb screw up, and it's like I have to come up with a reason. Like Jon's mind was controlled by a glass candle or something, or he was controlled by Ghost, so that he did something really dumb. and join the Night's Watch, because he totally shouldn't have joined the Night's Watch. I mean, I fundamentally just think it's a George fuck up. Like, how could you write that? Like he has no reason to join the Night's Watch. This is the whole reason. Like, you established him as a bastard without any opportunity in the world, and then he's not. He's like, oh, actually, he was totally going to be a lord. Ah, fuck. Like, so if we're trying to like riddle out what happened, okay, so they come to Ned and they talk about the gift. And let's say that like it's a dream for spring. They don't want to do it now for some reason, because I don't know why. Like what like, they need to settle they need to collect these wildlings, right? And they need to treat with them to eventually like pull them in and have them come across and settle the gift and have Umber and the mountain clans and everybody be on board. And it may be that not everyone was on board yet, or there was more diplomacy that needed to be done, and that had everything to do with it. Maybe that's why like Benjen was like going out there and trying to treat with wildlings or something, and that Mance somehow was treating as well north of the wall and got to know all of the wildling clans. And the reason he was able to become a king is that he was going from wildling clan to wildling clan and like being a diplomat. I mean, we can write this fan fiction that like it's all started as Ned's plan to settle the gift, and Mance was like one of the main ranger diplomats going around trying to convince all of the wildlings to come south and settle the gift. And instead he decided to turn it around. Like when the whole plan fell apart, Mance decided to then leave north of the wall, and the whole like cloak thing is a stupid idea. That was just dumb. And that really like he left the Night's Watch because the settle the gift plan was delayed, and he went to become their king to bring them back, because he had promised them that he was going to bring them south of the wall, or something like that. I mean, we could, is that a workable plot? That's a workable plot. Maybe, one of them was against it, and it ruined the whole thing, and that, I don't know, the whole plan fell apart. We are both right. Look up Tarantino, talk about the perfect films. Jimmy Kimmel. Also, do you watch all of History Buffs? He has some good stuff too. Yeah, I watch History Buffs. He's a great channel. Friend of Carmine's. Let's see. Loras chapter, please. Oh yeah, I guess we have to find out what happens to Loras on Dragonstone. It'll happen soon. It'll happen soon. Favorite horror movie? I haven't seen any good ones in decades. It's all gore and jump scares now. I'm trying to think of like really, really good horror movies, and Halloween is a really fucking good movie. It is really, really good. None of the subsequent Halloweens are any good. None of them. I know some people think Halloween 2 is like salvageable. No. None of the Halloweens are any good. But Halloween is a fucking banger movie. It is so good. It is so well paced. It's so well acted and so well directed. It's perfect. And it doesn't even have gore. There's no blood in the whole movie. It's really beautiful. I'm trying to think did I like Rosemary's Baby and stuff like that? There's definitely scenes of Rosemary's Baby that like I appreciate. I love Event Horizon. I think Event Horizon is a really fucking good movie. I know that some people don't think it's that great, but I fucking that airlock scene in Event Horizon and stuff like that. Like that was some good stuff. I'm trying to remember any others that I really think.
Have you ever checked out the lore behind Event Horizon? Like it's one of the creepiest lores behind like the filming of a film ever.
Really?
Like so apparently Event Horizon was even more disturbing, and like the test screeners were like, "No, you guys got to cut this shit back a little bit." So they cut it back, and somehow the actual original film, like the original film with all the disturbing scenes in it, was found in a mine in
What?
like Europe somewhere. Yeah, this is not. I'm not kidding. I'm not. This is the actual thing that happened. So, and it's also one of the very few films where everyone is not fucking stupid when it comes down to like
Yeah.
facing the music that there's something creepy going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because Lawrence Fishburne's character is like, okay, we got to get the
We
fuck
got
out
it.
of
We're
here.
done. Yeah.
Set the explosives. Let's go.
Yeah. Like they take the exploration to the exact limit that you'd be like, okay, this is it's time to get out of here. I don't care. I don't care. Let's not split up. And it's even though like some people don't like the comic relief guy, like when I first saw the movie, every time he did something, I was just like, because like you're like there's so much tension that when he does something I like he played his role. So I liked the comic relief guy, even though some people hate him in the movie. But I saw it in the theaters and was just completely engrossed by the whole thing and thought it was a really cool.
It's a pseudo 40K film. Pseudo 40K.
Yeah,
film,
yeah, no, it
where
is.
the ship goes into the warp and comes
And
back.
it's just and it's like the worst place ever with yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think like, okay, obviously Scream is a good movie if you even count that as a horror movie, you know. But and but movies where I just like totally like was just engrossed in the story. Yeah, I would say like Halloween, Event Horizon. I guess parts of Rosemary's Baby are really good. I think Exorcist and Exorcist 3 are very good. You know what movie I kind of really like? It's called Prince of Darkness. And it's about these people get this message from the future and they're trying to figure out what it is. Yeah. I'm trying to think anything else that really like, I guess I like the new Dawn of the Dead. I thought that was pretty good.
Which new Dawn of the Dead? The one from 2004?
Yeah, yeah. The Snyder one. I thought that's pretty good. But I'm trying to. Does Predator count as a horror movie? Predator is
I don't
really
think
good.
so.
The original Predator is I mean, it's a 10 Little Indians horror movie, right? You know, so like, I think it's pretty good. What do you think of the original Cube? By the way, Carmine. You know what I'm talking about?
The original Cube?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a film? What is that?
Yeah, Cube is this movie where it was filmed on like nothing budget because it's just like it's a bottle, but like it's a bunch of people that wake up in a room where there's a door on each wall and there's a door on the ceiling and there's a door on the floor. And when they go from room to room, it's another room that's exactly.
Do me a favor.
The
This
same.
sounds interesting. Please don't spoil it, because is this
Okay.
like Saw?
It is. It was long before Saw though.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's
I
much
wanna
like
check.
Saw.
I'm putting this.
Yeah. And
I'm putting this on the list, and I'm putting Prince of Darkness on the list because this is sound. This. Oh, by the way, you're missing one really good horror film that even like from beginning to end, it's like amazing. The Thing.
oh yeah, the thing's incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like sometimes like you forget that something's a horror movie, you know? The Thing. And I mean Alien, you know, like I forgot Alien. The red comment was the time traveling fetus Tyrion. Maybe. It, what's very funny is that, like, you know, Could time traveling Bran somehow go far enough back to cause the comet? And how would he do it? Um, Marwyn is a black-faced Makoro, bold for George R. R. Martin. That is true. Makoro equals Makoro. Yeah, there is a small difference in how Makoro is described between Victarion and Tyrion. Like one calls it, like, one has his skin being super dark, and the colors of his tattoos, but it's like not really enough to, like, if you if to really latch onto, revive Jon Snow becomes a zealot against the others, becomes a barrier to peace with the others. That would be interesting. Yeah, Melisandre as the Night Queen needs to be taken down for peace. That would be very interesting. Somebody's questioning, like, whether Gilly is super hot. The Gilly actress is super hot. I don't know what, like.
You're gonna Google a picture, aren't you?
Yeah.
There we go.
I mean, first of all, you were going nuts for her, you were going nuts for
Miranda,
Damon's wife. So, like, wow.
Rhea Royce. Rhea Royce is fucking disgustingly good looking.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I had a super close up, so I was like, I had a super close up, so it was like it looked kind of bad for a second.
Bring up the Rhea Royce actress, not in, like.
I mean, like, armor, she like
natural.
I mean, doesn't she look like Lexi Bell?
I have no idea who that is.
Really?
Is that a porn star?
Yeah.
Oh, is that porn? Is it porn star? I got it right. Yeah. Lexi Bell. Wait, who looks like Lexi Bell? Gilly actress or Rhea Royce actress?
The Gilly actress. Doesn't she look like Lexi Bell?
I don't know who Lexi Bell is. Let me look this up. No, she doesn't.
You must not be like.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. No, yeah, you're right. Kinda, yes. Like the teeth a little bit in the eyes, a little bit. Yes, you're correct. A little bit.
Okay.
Lexi Bell. I'm not saying she's not pretty. I'm just saying that's not for me. That's all I'm saying.
Whatever. I mean, she's no Miranda, but
Well, that's true.
Do you think House of the Dragon will have an in-universe excuse for Daemon never being directly mentioned? Oh, Daeron never being directly mentioned. Alicent not mentioning Daeron when warning Aegon about Rhaenyra in episode 6 sticks out. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the exact text of what he says, but I mean, it is really this is like Chuck Cunningham syndrome, but in reverse. In Happy Days, like Joni and Richie had an older brother who was in the first season, and then he just kind of disappeared. And even when they actually, like, end the show, like the last episode of Happy Days, the parents, like, turn to the camera and they're like, we want to thank you for, like, being with us and both our children. And you're like, oh God, like, even the parents have forgotten Chuck Cunningham. Like, what happened? But it's kind of the reverse. Like, Daeron doesn't exist, and then he might exist. Like, he might get cast. Like, if you're gonna cut a character, Daeron's one to be cut. I mean, I understand he's a dragon rider and everything, but you could probably cut him. But yeah, I'm trying to think of the exact. I mean, I guess they'll just get around it. They'll get around it somehow.
The only way I can see them actually making sense for not mentioning Daron is that Alicent, for some reason, is really mad at him, and she's kind of like she's so pissed at him, she kind of disowns him, kinda as much as she can, with what little power she has, kinda. So she doesn't mention him out of spite. I can see that going down.
But he's a child.
Maybe. I know, I know. I'm trying here. I'm trying to do some mental gymnastics. I'm trying.
Even without the gift, Jon joining the Night's Watch makes no sense. That is true because that's true. In that Jon, even though he's not, even if he weren't going to become a Lord of the Gift, okay, and him being a bastard, like it's still somewhat an honor to marry the Lord of Winterfell's bastard son. So you're talking like any lesser lord who has like a third daughter could be married to Jon Snow, and he would have a place to crash. Like if the whole thing is let's get him out of here because Catelyn doesn't like him, but like you need some place for him to crash. Like some lord who has like a third daughter, you know, would gladly marry Jon Snow. Him being the bastard son of the Lord of Winterfell, just to suck up to Ned. So yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense that Jon joined the Night's Watch. Like the opportunities for Jon as Ned's son, like they made Ned too powerful, essentially. Maybe if Ned were like a lesser lord, you know, you could be like, his bastard is nobody, you know. But the Lord of the North, like, come on, you can't find some lesser lord with a third daughter who, you know, come on, you know. Let's see here. Have you been to Chile? And if so, where? Chile is one of the few countries in Latin America I have not been to. I have been to all of Latin America, mainland Latin America. There's a few islands, but I've never been to Nicaragua. I've never been to Suriname or Guyana, and I've never been to Bolivia or Chile. But everywhere else I've been to. I've been to Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, Colombia. I've never been to Venezuela. But Panama, Costa Rica, Belize, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, all that. But I've never been to Chile. I'm sorry. I mean, the thing is if I ever go, like, I feel like I want to go to Easter Island, and that's a whole flight. That's a whole long flight to get out there. But we'll see how it goes. Oh, it was placed in a salt mine because Carmine, Event Horizon was placed in a salt mine because of celluloid film degrades and falls apart when exposed to air.
Oh, okay, cool. But it's the fact that it was placed in a fucking mine, though. Like, come on. That is... And they forgot about it? I'm pretty sure they forgot about it and, like, recently discovered it. I'll have to look it up.
You know, there's some interesting... it's weird how degradable, like, film was up until now, the digital age, and how, like, there's a lot of lost media that kind of never... that you know, we'll never see the light of day. Even they say it's hard to find like Super Mario Brothers the movie and stuff like that, you know, like videotapes. Yeah, like videotapes are falling apart and no one cares about them anymore, and there's a lot of media that's only on videotapes, you know, only on tape. So
you know, I know we're on about movies right now. You know what I just saw recently that I thought was all right? Because everyone hypes it the fuck up. Rambo. I just saw the first Rambo film for the first time the other day. Yeah. It was okay. It was all right.
I mean,
I'm gonna watch part 2 soon.
Well, Rambo is like a movie about a guy who has PTSD. I think only one person dies in the whole movie, and then it becomes something else. It's sort of like the movie Death Wish or Rocky. You know, a lot of these movies where like the first movie is so different from everything else that comes after, like the series, you know. which is kind of weird and ridiculous, you know. Um, wow, there's a lot of discussion on like Gilly, on whether she's very decisive. Lots of people are like, she's freaking hot, she's a babe, and then other people are like, mid, no, ugly. She's all over the place, like whether Gilly is hot. Man.
She was on Skins, so that's why she gets a lot of the the attention.
Oh, was she? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think Ramsey was as well. Ian Rion, whatever his name is.
Oh, okay. Skins was like that British show where everyone was banging each other, right? It was like,
yeah, it was like Euphoria, but not in the United States.
Yeah. Watching from Nicaragua. So, in 2024, I'm moving, and we to Dominican Republic. But on our short list of places to go was Nicaragua, but we got Dominican Republic instead because we wanted to go there, just because we heard so many good things about Nicaragua, it being a more chill, relaxing place with less crime than the rest of Central America and things like that. So it's even though like Nicaragua, like in people's minds, like they still have the 80s in their head about Nicaragua being like this unstable place, but it's actually now like kind of more chill and safe than the rest of Central America, like El Salvador or Guatemala or Honduras, you know. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, no, we wanted to go there, but we got Dominican Republic, which is probably, you know, we're pretty good. But these live from Taipei's eventually will be live from Santo Domingo's, eventually in 2024. So.
Wait, what's the Santo Domingo time zone? Domingo, because right now, what's the?
It's on Atlantic. It's right now Atlantic. It's 1 hour. 1 hour from Eastern?
Yeah, you'll be 1 hour ahead. Oh my god, fucking finally. We'll be able to goddamn record at a reasonable hour. Holy shit. I won't have to wake up so early in the morning. Sleep in finally.
Move to Switzerland. Interlaken is gorgeous. Interlaken is unreal. It's Switzerland is in general an unreal, beautiful place. But look, if we had the choice to move to Interlaken, okay, but like, so the way Foreign Service works on the first couple tours is you get the first tours are directed, and then after that you bid for tours. But so in your first tour, you go through your class, and then they give you this list of places, and you know you rank them like what's high, what's low. And you try to give your reasons and stuff like that. And based on like your language abilities and timing and everything, they try to send you to a place that you place high. But keep in mind that the good places have a lot of competition. So like Paris, everyone wants to go to Paris. So like if you put Paris as your number one, like why are they going to pick you over anybody else? You know? So your chances are pretty low. So like, but if you pick like a unique country that people don't want to go to, but is secretly like a pretty cool place, like let's say you want to go to Armenia, right? And you put that as your number one, you might get it, you know. Now to make up for like getting a good place on your first tour, you get these points, and then the second time around, you get to go first. So say you go to let's say you go to Bangladesh, which is known for being one of the most challenging countries to go to as a Foreign Service officer, or Chad. You get to go first on your list. So say you go to Bangladesh, like your next time around, you might, and the list comes out and there's a Paris on it, you might get it. So when we did our list, like I kind of convinced my wife to go to Taiwan. She put it number one. We fully didn't expect we were going to get it. We thought we were going to get Panama because there were like 5 Panama posts. And we put Panama number 2 because Panama's pretty cool. And we got Taiwan. We got our number 1. So, but it means that Taiwan's nice. And so she doesn't get any points the next time around. So the list came out, and like Frankfurt, Germany was on it. And we're like, Frankfurt, come on, let's, and like Berlin was on it, and Madrid was on it, and all sorts of great places. By the time by the time they got to my wife, like those places are all gone. So you're then left with like the remainder, and there's a lot of decisions to be made. Like, if you want to go to a Spanish-speaking post, you better do it on your first couple posts because it's the only time they'll build in language because there's enough Spanish speakers. So it was kind of like, well, what's good that's Spanish-speaking, And so there are some other places that I thought about, like Kazakhstan was on there, but there were some pollution issues with that we thought about. Armenia was on there. What else was like interesting and high? Dubai, but in the end, we put Dominican Republic number 1, and there were a few Dominican Republic posts too, and we got Dominican Republic. So that's where we're going in 2024. Now Preston has to learn Romanche. Romanche is like so there's like 4 major languages spoken in Switzerland. Swiss, German, French, Italian, and Romanche, which is this like odd little thing, but like no one speaks Romanche. I heard Croatia is pretty, but the people in Croatia can be horrible. I didn't have any bad experiences with any Croatians. I've always had a really great experience in all former Yugoslavia. Like but somebody can have a bad experience there. But granted, I didn't meet that many Croatians, but like I met plenty of like people from Montenegro who were wonderful. Everybody in Serbia was super nice. Everyone in Albania was sweet. Everyone in Slovenia was sweet. But I don't know. I had an okay time. They seemed fine for me. Well, Daron has been confirmed by both George R. R. Martin and Condell, so we'll see how it goes. Also, the Gilly actress is very pretty. They'll bring him in, but I think it was maybe one of those situations where they didn't know if he was going to be a character or not. Like they were on the fence whether they're going to write him out. And so and they just didn't have enough time to develop everybody. And so they kind of left it ambiguous. And in retrospect, it like doesn't really make sense that he's not mentioned. In the Cosby Show, they introduce an older sister later on. And I don't know if she and everybody's like, what? He has another daughter? He has another kid? I want to say Sandra from the Cosby Show. Sandra Huxtable. I want to say if she was like written in. Whether she like when she appeared. Was she even in like the first couple seasons? No. Oh, I'm sorry. He does appear in the first season, episode 10. But she did not exist in the pilot. And he actually says, like, do we have 4 children? And he says, because we did not want 5. And he says, why do we have 4 children? And he says, because we did not want 5. He actually makes a joke about it in the pilot. And then later they're like, nope, they have a fifth kid. They have a 5th kid. Fuck it, Pyongyang it is. Yeah, nobody's in Pyongyang, but when you pick these posts, you have to think about a lot of stuff. You have to think about like spouse working abilities. Like we had to go someplace with good internet because of this, and where your kids can be and things like that, where their schools. So like you don't want to be sent to an unaccompanied post, and they're like Chad is an unaccompanied post. They don't send kids there, or like, and then some are like some posts you can bring a spouse, and then some posts you can't even bring a spouse. It's just you. Like if you're going to Iraq, it's just you. You can't bring your spouse. D should do that community scene where Jack Black was always there. There's a community episode where they're like, oh, you go to this school, and then like they do a flashback, and like Jack Black is in like all of these scenes that we've previously seen, but he's just there. I think they do the same in How I Met Your Mother about some bartender that all of a sudden they
just
place,
thinking that.
Yeah, they just place him in the background of everything. Yeah. And they kind of do it in the I want to say it's the Wet Hot American Summer sequel. They just place in another character who is like, oh, I've been here the whole time. Or I think they do it in the end of Boy Meets World, where like one of the characters who hasn't been there for seasons is at graduation, and they're like, where have you been? And he's like, I've been here the whole time. What are you talking about? Like, I just been in different classes.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they're like, okay. So where does Poland rank on Foreign Service desirability chart? It's pretty desirable. It's a pretty comfortable post. I don't think you'd get any like points for going there, though. Like you wouldn't get the same like competition as you would for like Western Europe, but it's a place that's like pretty comfortable. Most of though like if you want to go to Europe and like and it be comfortable and be a place that people don't know is secretly comfortable, it's like former Yugoslavia. Like people are like, oh, I did Ljubljana or Belgrade or Kosovo or Pristina or something, and they're actually pretty comfortable places, but like, and you're a hop, skip, and a jump from the rest of Europe, but people aren't like, people don't see it and they're like, oh, I immediately want to go there. Oh my God, it's Madrid, So that's the way Eastern Europe is, but most of Eastern Europe is super comfortable. Though right now, like, oh man, they're trying to get everyone to go to Kyiv, because that's the future of the department.
Wait. Kyiv, Ukraine?
Yeah.
What? Really? Right now, of all places?
It's where all the money's going to be spent. All the money's going to be spent for the next 10 years, 20 years. Talking like rebuilding programs, stuff like that. That's it's like the future. Like, keep in mind that like a lot of the department deals with. So the Department of State is mostly things like dealing with refugee and displacement crises, dealing with development programs, to education programs, get people off the ground, things like that, and also dealing with partners that want to deal with America. And so it's like when you're dealing with foreign aid in all of its forms, whether it's USAID or the State Department or DoD, and DoD does a lot of aid too. DoD does military assistance. State Department does military assistance and development, and USAID does development. Like when you're dealing with all these aspects, you want to deal with a partner that wants to work with America, that wants our help, which is Ukraine, and then a place where there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of rebuilding, a lot of displaced people, a lot of stuff that a lot of work needs to be done. And so like all of these people that were working in, say, Afghanistan, all that money that was working with Afghanistan, it's not there's nothing's happening in Afghanistan anymore. So like a lot of that stuff gets shifted, They don't really shrink budgets, so like they got to shift it to something. It's going to get shifted to Ukraine. So
no North Korea post.
There's no State Department people in North Korea. We don't have the diplomatic relationships. Where the Pacific Islands
that you can talk about, of course.
Yeah, where the Pacific Islands, Fiji, Samoa. So with this has to do with like supply and demand. So while like there's not much demand to go to these isolated places, there's also not much supply in the sense of positions. So when you're talking like an embassy in a place like Fiji, I don't think there's anything in Samoa, but in Fiji, you're gonna have an embassy of like 3 to 4 Americans. Sometimes it's one State Department person. Sometimes you're the only State Department person there. While like it's like one DoD person and one like agriculture person and like you, like that's it. So like the demand is low, but like there's only one position, and like it's usually like those things open up and it's like some person who's super into diving who's like yes, and then they go for it. So it's like your chances of getting it are low just because there's not many there. So like a lot has to do with like how many positions are there. So like when you go to like a huge embassy like Sao Paulo, which is or a huge consulate in Sao Paulo, or a huge embassy in like Mexico City or Beijing, like there's just so many positions, so you can always end up going there if you want, but you can't you know, there's just not much opportunity. Like you say, like what work is the State Department doing there? Well, there's not much. There's like one person to deal with like visas and stuff, you know, like that's it. Oh, call up Ted Turner to book another wrestling show in North Korea. Yeah, well, a lot, you know, it's like I'm not sure what yeah, I'm not sure you know, if North Korea wants to do much anymore. Aren't they trying to we'll see what happens with the daughter. He seems to be grooming his daughter to be the new leader of North Korea, but Amsterdam, brilliant urban planning and red light district, and we dude. Amsterdam's a cool city. It's I think in urban planning though, I think the Dutch would be like they much more praise like The Hague and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I like Amsterdam a lot. It's got good Indonesian food. Good Indonesian food. Are you going to entitle the chapter Samwell? If Sam is self-actualized now, is he too depressing? Doubting? Should we keep the reveal of Dahan Sam by naming it something else? Maybe the Sentry. Yeah, I mean, whatever Dahan's like, I think it would be named after whatever Dahan is job is. I mean, there's something I was thinking about like this, like the Savior or something. You know, like his job is to save the Wildling girl and things like that. So I think that kind of stuff, the Savior might be something that could work, or just his job. Yeah, like the Sentry if his job is a sentry, the Cook if his job is a cook. You know, I don't know. You know. Did you cover Swap Lines yet? What's Swap Lines? Do you know what this is?
No, that sounds familiar though. Swap Lines. Something to do with the Fed and SVB. That's what it looks like from Google. Quick Google search.
Oh, okay. Oh, this has to do with banking crises. Okay. Um, I mean, it just seems like another kind of I mean, I'm not too knowledgeable about like monetary policy and what banks do to keep liquidity and flow of stuff, but it sounds like people are on stuff and the world will not collapse. I mean, it didn't collapse in 2009, so you know, we got it. The real question, will Fat Pig Mast make an appearance in the Sam chapter? I wish he could reuse Fat Pig Mast.
Editors, throw in some sex scenes in there, you cowards.
Oh, I think there's definitely going to be a lot of things that make Sam uncomfortable. That's the hilarious thing, right? Is when Sam gets uncomfortable and whimpers a lot. Because I think what's going to happen is like Dahan. Did you listen to the outline, Carmine? Or do you like to be surprised?
The one for John too?
No, the one for Sam.
No, I didn't see it yet. Did you upload it?
Yeah. But it's like a 15-minute listen, so you can't do it now.
Hold on. When did you upload it?
Saturday.
Yo, how come I never get your stuff like your stuff never pops up for me? I don't know why.
Yeah, people say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've not seen it. Cuz I know you're in the middle of John too, and I'm waiting for you to send me that one. Where is it?
Yeah.
I can't find it. Where the Oh, there it is. Yeah, I didn't get notified of this.
Sorry, dude. Yeah. Yeah, no, you have to listen to it. It's pretty ambitious, but let's see here. Why send Cat to Seaguard after the Red Wedding? I mean, wasn't the line that he didn't want to keep all of his treasures in one place, and so to keep her safe, like Seaguard is like one of the most like well protected areas, I suppose, and so if she's the heir, it's like a good place for her, I would guess. If she's the heir. I mean, some people would just be like, well, why not there? It seems like a safe place for anybody. But is his mom so much of a treasure? It's funny because it's like Rob sends his mom off into a war zone between Stannis and Renly, right? Sends her like as this like diplomat into like potential adversaries like hands. She nearly gets killed by a shadow baby. As war breaks out, she crosses back across the Riverlands. Now keep in mind, this is the same Riverlands that Arya is like constantly in fear of getting killed at any moment in. Like at every moment, like you feel like Arya's gonna die. Cat gets sent across the Riverlands into the Reach, into like these potential enemies' hands, nearly gets killed, makes it all the way back, and then he's like, "Oh, I've got to protect my treasures." Put Cat at Seaguard. It kind of only does make sense if she's the heir, because he sure didn't value his mom's life very much the first time. Well. Trump will steamroll the GOP primary again. The normal perception of Biden is he's worse than Trump, and people refuse to turn around on that. I wonder if any Dem will run against him. I mean, granted we're all in our bubbles. Like I think the normie perception of Biden is pretty good. Let me see here. Hold on a second. I mean, I have no idea what you see in your bubble because everybody's in their own. But let's see if we go to the incredibly perfect 538, which is like, it just Biden's approval rating is like near an all-time high according to 538. 44% approval, higher than Donald Trump's at this point, and kind of on par with Obama's at this point. Like, I don't know if there's a normie perception that Biden is worse than Trump. I don't know. I think that's a bit ridiculous.
There is one Dem. I don't know if she counts as Marianne Williamson. She announced. Yeah. I'm assuming she's going to do Democrat again. So I guess she's against Biden. I guess.
Sure, but yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, keep in mind that like my friend group is a bunch of liberals, not like far leftists, but like DC liberals, and they're all pleasantly surprised at how awesome Biden is and how awesome the Biden administration has been. Like, but this is like a bunch of American liberals. Like, so in my bubble, Biden is awesome and doing much better than everyone expected. And yeah, he's old, but who else is there to keep everyone together? It's Biden all the way. Like, that's my, like, that's what I have eyes on. I don't know, like, you know, like Trump seems like a candidate who is so like strong, like he's not weak enough to lose the primary, but he's not strong enough to win the election. Like, no one can run against him. And if they do, he's going to burn down the Republican Party. And if he wins, you know, he will, no one wants to go back to Trump. Like, or at least not enough. Like January 6th and everything, like, no, not enough people want to go back to Trump. So I think at that point, like, Biden waltzes back into office. Yeah, so that's my opinion. But again, I'm in, you know, I see what I see. You're talking about Daeron possibly being illegitimate made a lot of sense. By the way, he was chilling in Oldtown while Ormond wrote to King's Landing for dragons. Maybe he had double bonding with maybe he had trouble bonding with Tessarion. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that maybe his first dragon egg or something didn't hatch, or they needed a new hatchling or something like that. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, no, this idea that, like, you know, this gets into like the I posted about it in my last overanalyzing series that there is some discussion that Daeron could actually be Criston Cole's, because Criston Cole becomes Alicent Hightower's like sworn shield, so they're together all the time, and so she has the opportunity to have sex with him. And Daeron's sent away from Oldtown at right before Vaemond Velaryon does his petition, him and his family. Vaemond might be killed before he gets out there, but his family comes out and petitions, and that they wanted to get the one Targaryen without blonde hair out, so it's not to ruin that petition, which, you know, kind of would make some sense. I don't think they'll probably go that way in the show, but whatever. Literally writing an orgy scene for my submission now. Trey has arrived very, very late in the game here. But yeah, this is for the exciting Sam chapters, which will take place somewhat in Lice, and so we're going to be dealing with a lot of sex workers and a lot of wonderful sex, and I said it's kind of like an Indigo Montoya kind of like character who's like, I am Dahan and I will save the wildling girl, you know, like kind of story that's going to be fun. It's going to be very fun.
Trey, where's that next video, Trey? Get on that.
He just posted a
video, boy.
Did you not get the alert?
No, he didn't. My fucking God. What is up with my shit? Hold on.
Trey posted a video days ago, dude.
Oh, shit. I didn't. What is going on with my shit? What is happening? Why am I not getting anything?
I know, dude.
What the fuck?
Especially something like as epic as like Trey posting a video.
I'm getting everybody's like shit. I'm getting DeFranco here. I'm getting History Marsh. I'm getting Pawn Stars. Star Wars Explained. Ethan Chabowski. No, nobody. Whatever. Sorry, Trey. Never mind. As you were.
It's gonna be really tough to get Sweets to all the way to Lice, because I mean Sweets is still in Slaver's Bay. I mean we can try to get Sweets in later somewhere else, but I don't know. Getting Sweets all the way to Slaver's Bay should be. From Slaver's Bay to Lice is going to be a toughie. I'm trying to think when Sweets Yezin contracts the Pale Mare. So Tyrion like escapes to the Second Sons. Um, where is Sweets? Yeah, Sweets has got to come back. Sweets has got to come back. Has PJ ever been on TV? Maury, Jerry, Springer, local news. Believe it or not, I was once in the audience of Jenny Jones, and I asked a question on Jenny Jones. And
Which episode? I'll download that shit right now.
I mean, Jenny Jones is that stuff's lost, dude. There's no way that episode of Jenny Jones has survived.
Hey, listen to me. I got it. Which question did you ask?
It was a really random question. It was like it was like a bunch of people. The show was like people that don't know who don't know. It was like they don't know who the father of the kids are or something. And I asked a question like, you guys all cheat on each other and sleep around. Like, what makes you think you can be good parents? And then like the audience goes nuts, and like that's what I asked. And it was like, this is what I was like a freshman in college or something.
I'll find it. I got you.
There's no way you're gonna find it. 1995, 1996 Jenny Jones show. No way. I mean, is Jenny Jones even on YouTube? Right here. Is Jenny Jones even on YouTube? They have the Jenny Jones show that ended in murder, 1995. I mean, that was the same year. But the Murderous Crush show. But I don't think you're gonna. Do you know what a
Lugia is, by the way? Out of curiosity, Lugia.
Yeah, the Pokemon.
Lugia. Holy shit! How the fuck do you know? There's a YouTube channel called Lugia's VHS Archive, and I'll find it. I'm gonna find this. Either me or someone in the audience will find it, and they will send it to me.
I mean, that's. I'm going to be very impressed. I mean, I'll be happy if you find it. Be very happy if you find it. Yeah, and then
can you at least help me and tell me who the people on stage? What do they look like?
White rednecks.
Okay, that narrows it down because the ones I'm looking at here are not white rednecks. Okay.
Yeah, they're all white rednecks. After I said my thing, the guy on stage is like, "Do you have kids?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Then shut up." I was like. And like, what's funny is we did watch the show when it showed on TV, and I'm pretty sure they like looped more applause in than at the time. Like I just remember like a woo, and then when I rewatched it, it's like the applause just kept going, which is ridiculous. Do
you have kids? No. Shut the. He showed you.
It's true. I mean, he is. I mean, I admit he's totally right. Like he's totally right. Like he's like I was a stupid 18-year-old kid. I don't know what the fuck did I know. What the fuck did I know about their life or like how to parent or any of that? He was completely right. Like.
Are you sure it was 95, 96? Because that can narrow down the seasons.
It was definitely 95, 96. Yeah.
Okay.
I was definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was the autumn or the spring. I think I was wearing a t-shirt, so I want to say spring of 96 would be my guess. No, yeah, that would be my guess. Spring of 96.
And what were you wearing?
Probably a green t-shirt.
Okay.
I mean, that's all I wore back then. The t-shirts, yeah.
I got you.
Oh, Kat going to Seaguard with her new betrothed, Jason Mallister. Good match. She's attracted to him, and he could be, and this could be the infamous trap. Oh, that's true. Is she attracted to him? That's kind of funny. That Kat has the hots for Jason Mallister. Let's see what Jason. Clean-shaven, tall, lean man, brown hair with white and fierce blue eyes, gaunt, chiseled face, high cheekbones. Catelyn Stark thinks he's still handsome. Oh yeah. Yeah, I suppose it makes sense. Of course, to really like get with the like what it would make more sense for her to be betrothed to a northerner though, to because she's a Riverlander. Really. But that would be something. I think if we ever get Jason Mallister, we'd have to have him like comment about how hot Cat is, and like the sexual tension between Cat and Jason. Oh yeah, the infamous trap. It's like you've got to go live with Jason Mallister, this incredibly hot dude. But of course, like Rob wouldn't know about that, and that'd be really creepy. Like, dude, I'm gonna set my widowed mom up, even though it's only been a few months since my dad died. How do you feel about the the misinterpretation there are cannibals on Skagos being Cannibal the Dragon is on Skagos, fattened similar to Tremberchod, or Themberchod. Themberchod is the Forgotten Realms dragon. Carmine, you know what I'm talking about? Big fat dragon in D&D universe.
No, I don't know anything D&D. No, I'm sorry.
So believe it or not, there's kind of, so even before they invented these other campaigns, there was kind of a D&D lore that was somewhat invented parallel to the cartoon that came out. Like there was a 5-headed dragon that you could get an action figure for, and there were various characters that you could get an action figure for. And then later, they invented this Forgotten Realms universe, which is not really any place in particular. It just could, like, anything could fit in it. Tiamat, Dungeons and Dragons, was this dragon. And then they start reusing a lot of these characters later. Oh, geez, I guess he appeared in all the later editions. So, Forgotten Realms also had like stuff, and there was a really fat dragon in it. Forgotten Realms is just kind of a generic D&D universe, as opposed to like Spelljammers or Dark Sun or something, which apparently they're discontinuing because Dark Sun had slavery in it, and they didn't like the idea of like encouraging people to play in a slavery universe. It's kind of weird. But what do I think of this interpretation? I mean, I think it works. I don't know if Cannibal would still be alive, right? But I think it is kind of more interesting to arrive and be everybody being like, "We're not cannibals. What are you talking about? That's like stupid." Though he does mention there's cannibal clans to the far north. Ice River cannibals, cannibals of the Wolf's Wood. Huh? Open the gates, let them pass. Cannibals, giants camping in the ruins. Cannibals, giants camping in the ruins of Winterfell. Cannibals in the Wolf's Wood. Chariots sweeping across the Barrowlands. Free folks stealing the daughters. Some song, and the Skags were cannibals. Who said this? I think this is Samwell believes that the Skags, the Skagosi are cannibals. Or some songs said that the Skags were cannibals. Isle of Unicorn and cannibals. It's definitely famous. I'm just trying to think if there's any historical besides just songs. Yeah, I don't think so. I think that oh, here we go. In the world of Ice and Fire, like as not, the Skagosi surely did once practice cannibalism, though whether this custom still lingers to this day is a matter of dispute. um, some say cannibals. I mean, I think it's more interesting if there's no cannibals there and that it came from cannibal. That'd be funny. That'd be interesting. Add that into the fanfic. Sweet says violent eyes, maybe from Lice originally. It's just how I'm just thinking like, how is Sweets getting back, right? Like, Sweets has to hop a ship, but our ships flee, but Victarion and everybody are coming in and with their fleet. They would have to evade Victarion, and I think timeline wise, it's gonna be a month. I mean, I just think Sweets, who will definitely return, but we're just gonna have to wait. I just can't figure how Sweets would get back so fast. Like Tyrion just left Sweet's company, and to join the Second Son. So it's been like a few days, like at most a week since we last saw Sweets. So I don't know if he can, if Sweets can get there, or maybe later on. Here's the thing, Trey, is after Lice, the Samuel perspective is going to be heading east over time. So Sam is eventually going to go to Volantis, and then maybe Slaver's Bay. But the idea is that he's going to be sweeping that way. You could maybe wait for Sweets to get to Volantis, and then have Sweets show up in Volantis versus Lice. I just think it's a little soon to get Sweets to Lice. As much as I love Sweets, as much as the next guy, believe me. But we need to get him there. Rating thoughts on Governor's response to the SVB bank run. Oh, government's response, not Governor's response. I mean, let's see here. I have to check my Washington Post. Because, again, I don't really know much about these two things. About monetary policy and how bailouts are done. But it seems like, does it seem like in America the crisis has been stopped, but it's moved to Europe, and now they're trying to deal with it in Europe? Is that my interpretation, and am I wrong about that? SVB bank run. I mean, I know people get very angry that the government's willing to I know that it's by the way, like a lot of people I know, like their company, like I know, so I have a lot of friends who are, it's really my wife's friends, but like she knows a lot of people that work for technology related startups, and all of their companies are like were had their money with SVB, like all of them. And so all of them are like, oh crap, like what do we do? So it's affecting a lot of people's jobs. But I guess, I mean, it seems that let's see, what did Yellen do? He says, yeah, Yellen was saying that this was like a technology related stuff that people got on, that this was like a Twitter kind of thing. And I'm trying to think that, and then the government guaranteed the the money, right? Or was there a quick bailout or something? Which, I mean, I guess I haven't heard about anything for the last day. I mean, we'll see if anything happens this week, but it seems like it's contained, at least in America. I mean, I may be wrong about this, but we'll see. Oh, good morning from Israel. Never even heard of Jenny Jones. Jenny Jones was like a Jerry Springer-esque show that existed back in the day. It's very popular. Um, let's see here. Darren will absolutely use vague Hightower magic to bond with Testarion. No, I will not stop bringing up this character because nobody else cares about him. I think everybody cares about Daron. He's just kind of not that important. Like in the written text of the word, like there may be a lot of like hidden behind the scenes stuff. Like if he's a non-Targaryen with dragon riding abilities, that's freaking insane, right? Like, and if he is Kristen Cole's like child, that's freaking insane. And like the double standard, if like she birthed Kristen Cole's kid, and if like Jason Daron are actually half brothers and both Kristen Cole's, like, and that like Kristen Cole has to choose between his sons, and this is actually like what's going on in his head the entire time. Like, which son do I love more? Like Daron or Jace? Like there's like so much, and like Hightower like dragon riding like history. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of it. I mean, vague Hightower magic I don't know about, but like Hightower blood being dragon riding is something ever, so it's not that I'm not like focused on the possibilities of Daron. There's lots of possibilities of Daron. The problem is that very little is written about Daron, so you can't, like, there's not much textual support for anything. Like, you can speculate all day long on how cool it would be if Daron were Kristen Cole's. But there's just like not that much in the text about him because he's just not in the story, Preston, were you a fan of MTV's Real World? I watched Real World 1, 2, and 3. Like, so I know about Real World 1, 2, and 3 pretty well. Like, I was never like, I know it's like I watched it, but I was never really a fan of it. Like, I kind of like, you kind of understand that it gets like fake and weird. But I watched it, yeah. If Planetos were revealed to be Old Earth, what reasons do you think the world would be off limits to the others? Oh, to others. Oh man, that's so interesting. Okay, now you've brought up something super interesting. Okay, so in the Ice and Fire universe, or not in Ice and Fire, in the Thousand Worlds universe, Old Earth is quarantined from the rest of the galaxy, but it's kind of like a self quarantine though. But it would be really interesting if like the quarantine is because time travel was discovered, and like time travel is so dangerous that all you can do is like never go there again. Like, I'm trying to think of something that, like, what is so horrific that you would have to quarantine a planet? Like, okay, maybe a virus, something like that. But like, they're pretty good with like stopping viruses in that universe. Like, they're really good with genetic engineering. But like, what if the problem was they discovered time travel on Old Earth, and it was so dangerous that everyone's like, oh God, there's a time loop. We do not want the galaxy to be destroyed. Like, we're gonna isolate Old Earth because of a time rupture. Like that God, the sci-fi writes itself at this point, Um, Baby dragons taste the best. Cannibal hates that he knows that. That's from Snowpiercer, which Snowpiercer, by the way, I have a lot of problems with as a movie. What a fucking ridiculous movie. Ridiculous movie. Like the fact that like a character is going to be like, "Ew, I've been eating bars that are bugs the whole time," and then it's revealed that he's a baby eater. Like what? Like have some consistency in your fucking story, Snowpiercer. Like what a fucking horrible movie. Spaceships in the fanfic, favorite non-human from any universe. I think if there's a spaceship, it would have to be revealed in A Dream of Spring, like way at the end, like very subtly, very subtly. When we're talking about things like the comet or finding something on the Isle of Faces, but we can't just like throw out, things like that, like, like willy-nilly, like we can't have everything fall apart. Like you can't introduce spaceships this soon. Playing with ideas, Sweets showing up in a flashback in Dahan's memory, that would work. Like if Traegar or Malin is buying people and likes things that are exotic, we could definitely talk about how like Sweets used to be or whoever Dahan like meets, like Dahan could meet a slave trader or whatever, or Traegar could talk about Sweets as somebody he used to own, and then they were shipped off to Slaver's Bay. Because I mean, the purple hair and the violet eyes, like that definitely sounds like Lyseni to me. Like not Giscari, obviously. Like has to come from probably Lyse. The purple hair obviously has a more like is that Daario kind of feel, but that's like Tyrosh, right? The dye. But the violet eyes is definitely like kind of feeling like, but that would work. That would work as some sort of background. Somebody talking about Sweets or somebody remembering Sweets. We just have to figure like how long has Sweets been in the company of Fluent in Four Tongues. Yezin's Special Treasures. But yeah, I think Sweets could definitely. I think, I mean, it'd be kind of interesting, especially with Aleros being there, and Sam like being in Dahan's eyes and seeing this and hearing about like somebody being not the sex they claim to be is kind of an interesting thing, or being not a sex that can be easily defined in the sort of traditional brain. I think there's definitely room for Sweets, but I don't know if Sweets can show up in the flesh. All right, I've been on here 3.5 hours. Preston, please talk more about Thousand Worlds theories. I know. I'm gonna try to get, still irked by the Harangans, gonna try to get somebody to ask George R. R. Martin about the Harangans. And then, if he ever does another appearance, like have all the questions, just be like, what are the Harangan minds up to? Come on. All right, these are the last two, and then I gotta go. My voice is gone. I've been on here 3.5. Two ships went messing at Thousand Worlds. One seems to be in Bitter Blooms. Did the other missing ship ever show up? In any stories? I have to go back and think about Morgan's. So the character in Bitter Blooms is Morgan. I have to think about like the other ships. I mean, there's plenty of room for like crash landed ships and other arcs and all arcs like tough Haviland arcs and like stuff like that showing up. There is a lot. That's a possibility. Something with the. I think the go-to is that like if at the very end of the story in the last chapter, somebody finds like notices a ship with a theta on the side, like, you kind of like get the idea of what happened here or something. Maybe the Ecological Engineering Corps was dealing with time manipulation and screwed everything up. That'd be a crazy ending. But we're talking. people are thinking that it's going to take at least 6 years to finish Winds. Like we're off like a long time in the future. Hi Preston, have you ever noted the fact that a lot of Song of Ice and Fire magic religion is based on Jungian model of the psyche? Jungian model of the psyche. Balance between opposing qualities at the same time. Oh. This is like ego, the super ego, and the id kind of stuff. Personal unconscious. The ego, the personal unconscious, the collective unconscious. Oh, that's interesting. The collective unconscious. I'll have to read up on this. But and I'm trying to remember if he ever uses any words like Jung. Who was the wildling that fell off the wall? Who was that? It was Val's boyfriend. What was his name? Wasn't it something short like that? Jarl. Nah, it was Jarl. All right, peeps. Thanks everybody, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks a bunch.